now entering the Bass Galaxy.
This is Teal's Bass Galaxy. I'm your host. This podcast is about raw, real conversations with real awesome people about bass fishing, bass boats, and heck, there are no limits in the galaxy. This podcast is brought to you by the Dream Team at Supreme Lending, Veselka Fishing and Customs, and just north of Memphis, Barbecue, also known as JNO Memphis. Today's guest is somebody really cool, somebody who hits close to home here. He's a world-class smallmouth guide on Lake Mille Lacs. He's finished at the top of the Bassmaster Opens, the absolute bloodbath of the Bassmaster Opens, and he is qualified for the Bassmaster Elite Series quite a few years ago. Josh Douglas. This is a guy I fished with as an AM when I was a kid, back when the Silverado days were happening, and I've seen this guy catch them firsthand, and this guy's got drive like no other, and really enjoyed this one. So, ladies and gentlemen, Josh Douglas. Josh Douglas, welcome.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for making the trip, dude. Last time I remember when I was a kid fishing the Silverado tours, the first one I ever fished as an AM on Green Lake and Spicer, I got paired with this guy named Josh Douglas. And now you are fishing the Bassmaster Elite Series, my friend. That's pretty sweet, and it's been really cool to watch your journey. So I want to give you all the credit in the world for what you've done and all of that. But I don't know if you remember that first day on green that you let me practice in your boat, I remember.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, we were pretty dialed. We did practice, didn't we?
We did. Remember the day before?
Yep. No, I remember that tournament like it was yesterday, honestly. But it's funny you say that because I remember after the tournament, I think we maybe probably just missed the check.
Yeah, it was such a cookie cutter 3-pounder.
It was cool. We were catching them deep. Everyone else was looking at them.
Yeah.
And you like that. I know you're a deep fisherman. You like to fish out deep like I do. And I can remember that later going out with Ryan Brandt after that because they all caught him on beds.
Uh-huh.
And he'd point to the bed and look at it and be like, "You see the smallmouth?" And I couldn't see it.
Really?
And I couldn't see it for nothing. And he was like, "I don't know, it's right there, Douglas. It's right there."
Yeah.
Flick at it and catch it and be like, "Oh, God,"
Sure.
So I went to the eye doctor the next day after that tournament, and I got my eyes checked. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, you definitely need glasses." And
No way.
Now I'm a smallmouth assassin when I see him on beds and stuff. But, yeah, I remember you telling me I'd be on the elites back then when we were
I
fishing.
did?
We were cracking them.
Cool.
We were cracking them.
We had a good practice.
The practice was good. And we did catch them pretty fun in a good way. It was real windy. We were catching them offshore.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't we didn't do terrible, that's for sure. It was right there.
Well, that was like pre-side imaging, so I remember like
old school.
We fished a little bit of my stuff, and then I watched you duplicate it, and I remember we had 2D sonar, GPS, and a marker buoy. Like, you would drive over the spot, you showed me what a double echo was.
Yeah.
And, yep, we'd put the marker buoy down, and that day of practice, we'd fire like 4 casts on a spot and catch a 3 or 4 pound smallie and leave, mark it, and go. Well, what I learned after that and fishing that event and going through all that with you is, those typically weren't more than 1 or 2 fish spots. So I don't think we knew it, but we burned them a little bit.
For sure. Yeah.
Because it was more of a grind.
Definitely. And I think, now knowing what I know, that those fish are mostly moved up, and stuff like that. So we were catching either the posters or the preers. But, yeah, I mean, truth be told, really, I had about that was kind of some of my first tournaments. I fished the year before all the Bassmaster Weekend Series, the whole year. And I think the year before that was like my first was just go for Bassmasters.
Sure.
And they kind of talked me in to keep going more. Rich Lindgren, the Brian and Corey Brandt, and there was a bunch of them over there that were Paul Coffey and stuff that were all there and just kind of pushed me. And I mean, I just kind of got lucky. Success came fast at the weekend series, but that was my very first Silverado. I know.
Sure.
I think that
mine too.
If I'm not mistaken, and I definitely don't have a great memory, but I think my first year was the last year of the Silverado. Or did they
second last?
Okay, so there was two. Okay, so I mean, it had a history. I grew up watching, and all about it, and it was definitely a fun circuit.
It was, and it used to be the Mega Bowl, but you won a weekend series event, I think, that year before that on the river.
No, actually, I won it right before that tournament.
Oh, no kidding.
Well, I guess it all depends. Was Green Lake the first
tournament?
But was it the last season of Silverado or the second?
Second last.
Okay, yeah. No, I came from so I took second in the Angler of the Year points in the weekend series up in Minnesota, which was like an awesome schedule.
Yeah.
I really, really, I mean, I don't fish as much locally as I'd love to.
Right.
But I stay very tuned into what's going on. I will definitely finish in the state very strong, stuff like, and fish a bunch. But it was an awesome schedule. It was like whitefish, Pokegama, stuff like that, and then a championship on Tonka.
Oof.
And so I finished second in the Angler of the Year, and that's kind of when the things started. Right, I mean, the passion was there since I was a kid. I wanted to be a bass pro.
Right.
But that's when I was like, oh man, maybe I can do this. This is my first year, and I finished second in the points and stuff like that. And then the very next year, the weekend series was on the river.
Sure.
And then I won that one.
That was the one.
And then the very next tournament was Green Lake and Spicer. So I was that's
you
what
were
I'm saying.
coming off a win. It was,
I was feeling good, man. I was
was.
feeling real. I was feeling pretty unstoppable. Reality has kicked in since, but I was feeling pretty damn on my road to the elites right then and there, for sure.
For sure. Well, I mean, so the last of the Silverados, I think you did fish that tournament on the horseshoe chain.
Yeah, I did.
If I remember right.
I did.
And you were on a sneaky little pattern that you don't see a lot of guys doing. You were cranking for smallies, if I remember right. We pulled up. I convinced Bossart to pull up for like, a couple casts anyway throughout that day. And we had a nice smallie off that.
Yep.
Rock, I'll say, with pilings nearby.
It's pretty specific. I don't see a reason to get into it too crazy. But
Nope.
It was all that stuff was just kind of flowing there, and that's I'll tell you, it was a Rapala DT Flat 3.
No kidding.
Which I still have boxes and boxes. I don't know if I've ever, I mean, it's a great crankbait. It just is, but I don't know if I've ever had stuff like that. But that was that was that tournament in particular. I love the horseshoe chain. I've never been back. I just drove by it the other day doing a seminar. Well, I was on my way to do a seminar in Sioux Falls.
Yep.
Turned around, retreated with this blizzard, went back to St. Cloud. But the horseshoe chain's badass, man. I really do like it. Smallies and largies. You can flip up largies. That's, if I'm fishing largies, that's my favorite way to do it. And some dirty shallow smallmouth, cranking it was fun. But that was one of those times I just. You find in your career, if you're determined to get there, I'm one of those that thinks you can, as long as you just stick it in the dirt and keep going, what I mean, and just figure out a way to get there. But that tournament was one that, honestly, I've had a handful in my life that I feel like I could have won on that pattern and just had unfortunate
I think you lost fish.
Lost fish at the net.
Too.
Yeah, it was big ones. That's right. You guys were close.
I remember that clear as day. It was over 10 years. It was a long time ago.
I was just thinking about it. I was talking to Bree about it last night. I'm like, God dang, how long was that tournament? Must have been 11 or 12 years. So I'm like, me and Aaron kicked it off right away. Just kind of catching her up on it all. And of course, she was there for it all back then. But
I remember that.
Yeah, man, we lost. 4-pounders. They were big.
Yeah.
And still didn't have a terrible tournament, but came in and. It was a good learning lesson. I was pretty heartbroken there, and you kind of like, it was, but yeah.
It's a heartbreaking sport, and I think
it can be. It can be a great one too, but
it can.
Everything that you love is heartbreaking at some point.
That's a fact. Yeah. But fishing especially, man, it's a losing sport, and I think what's cool about you and where I give you a ton of credit is A, your skills, but B, your perseverance, man. Yeah. And I think like the perseverance you've shown a lot of people that, if you don't quit, you can do it. You know what I mean?
Right. No, you can.
There's a lot of people that sink and die in this sport, and trying to do, what you've accomplished. And I just give you a lot of credit, man, for sticking with it, and look at you now. So,
yeah, well, I appreciate that. And that honestly, you got to look at it like in every walk of life, no matter what you do, you have some people that just clicks for right away, whether they're oozing with natural God-given talent, they work real hard. We can take the hometown guy fighter.
Yeah.
And he's unique because I've seen some now. I know a lot of anglers throughout the country, learn from them, all that kind of stuff. And some, it just kind of, they're just natural. They don't even fish that much. I'm really envious.
Me too.
Of it to a degree, but
Yeah.
they just kind of walk right in and they figure it out. And kudos to them. It's gut instinct stuff. Then you got somebody like Fighter that I don't want to take nothing away from because I think he has that.
Yeah.
But he also works his ass off harder than almost anyone else out
Sure.
there. And I feel like I'm on that same level of work ethic, just
Yep.
don't necessarily have that. I got to stay on the water. I got to stay sharp. I gotta be thinking like him. I got to fish every single day, stuff like that. And the perseverance part, it's like, if you love something good enough, you got to chase it if it feels right. If it's all you think about. But really, when you look at the sport, if you sit back, 99% of people fail. They fail. You know what I mean? And it just doesn't work. And there's a whole bunch of explanation for that. There's all kinds of things to say: money, family, kids, emotional, don't like the stress. It's,
right.
Stuff like that. So,
right.
and this is every walk of life. But at the same time, man, if you feel like you got it, you just got to figure out a way to make it happen. And somebody told me that when I was young, like, if you want something, go get it. Ask people that are super successful at doing it. They're proud that they did it. They'll share it.
Right.
And try to limit your mistakes, and you'll get there. But at the same time, perseverance was hard. But if it's the elites, in 10 years of opens to get to the elites, I mean, those are so dang hard, and the cream will rise. Guys like Jason Christie will come back, get right back in, but the dude's exceptional. You know what I mean? To even be mentioned that I compete against the guy is already higher than or I'm dreaming.
Yeah.
But at the same time, perseverance, man, it's what you have to have, and I really think most anglers can probably, if they sit back, everybody wants to be a Jordan Lee and win two, but the odds of that happening are just not there. But if you look at a guy like myself and I just, try to do some things right and just keep with it, man, it can happen.
Totally.
It really can.
Totally. And kind of like Rick Clunn said, never think your best days are behind you. I mean, the nicer thing about fishing is your next 5 casts could be, a career changing, deal for you, so it's really just cool to watch you do what you do. And I think the other interesting thing about watching you progress through your career and stuff is your presence on the business side of things. But I'll be honest, on the being a thought leader and making yourself aware and known, and I think hopefully that allowed you to progress through that. But I think a lot of people think that your fishing career doesn't start until you make the Elite Series.
You're late to the party,
right?
bro. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And I would say you were probably the earliest to the party, and you've always been very creative and giving back to the fishing community, giving value back, whether it's, I remember I really enjoyed your Navionics webinars back when you did those. I would
want to
catch
bring
those.
back, dude.
Those are great,
especially
man.
now, what I mean? Like, to bring them back, and the educational side of things.
Right.
I love that. Yep.
Right. But I mean, there's a fishing grind to the sport of fishing, but there's also a grind that a lot of people don't see. And that's on the business side of things. And I think that you're probably one of the most polished business professionals in the sport. And I say that to give you a lot of credit there, because that allows you to do it. That's half the battle.
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, I have a marketing mind. I'm a hustler from the beginning.
Yep.
I mean, I'm going to hustle to make money. That's
Yep.
just what I know. I don't do well. I have that entrepreneur style mind.
Sure.
I think there's a better way, or cut out middleman and just kind of
Yep.
go this direction. Marketing's big, and the way I looked at it is I actually have a decently regular social media and stuff, but I don't love social media.
Yeah, I don't either.
But the thing about it is what I had a I guess, an epiphany, if you will, back earlier than a lot of people did, and looked at it like, well, if I can't promote Josh Douglas Fishing, that's the business.
Right.
You know, there's Shimano and great companies that represent Shields, all them, but Josh Douglas Fishing is the business first.
Right.
And if I can't market Josh Douglas Fishing, then why in the hell is anyone ever going to consider cutting me a check to go chase my dream to prove that I can promote their brand?
Yep.
And, you know, for me, I just looked at it right away. I stay fiercely loyal to sponsors, and I really, whether you agree or disagree, anyone, you know, for me, I really try for the most part to pick the best companies out there, the ones that I want to represent, and then just do a really good job for them.
Yep.
Make yourself, you know, but at the same time, you got to have the fishing. Now, I do think the industry is taken over by. Or not, that's a terrible way to say it. Has a lot of people that are, you know, just straight up media and stuff. And
Promoters.
whatever, dude, who cares? It's all for whatever makes you happy at the end of the day. If you're able to turn a buck doing it, well, heck, that can be a bonus. Yep. You know what I mean? But I think you have to have credentials for people to truly listen to you.
I agree with that.
To really be valuable to a company, you have to push product, and nobody's buying product from somebody that they don't believe can catch them.
Correct.
So I think you have to have, you know, both today to be successful. As I look, 10 years in the Opens was a grind, but then if I really look at it, I bet you Horseshoe Chain was 11 or 12 years ago, and I just told you that was one of my very first tournaments.
Right.
And I've had a lot of good stuff happen in between, so really, it's not that. It's been a fun ride.
I mean,
you know
that's
what I
a
mean?
drop
There's
in the
been
bucket.
Plenty of heartache, like I said, but it's just work, and if you love what you do and just kind of keep going at it. But I do appreciate that the business side, it's super duper important, and honestly, it's the first thing I tell. I wish I had what the younger generation has now. They have access to me. They have access to other pro anglers real easy. Yep. Real easy. And I know the power of that because Scott Rook Ken Cook. I'm sorry. Ken Cook passed away, right? Ken Cook, yeah. And he
Bassmaster, right?
Yeah, long time.
Yep.
Way back in the day, probably around the time we had that tournament, probably shortly after, dude.
I got
living life way up here after all that, you know. And I was on his website, and websites are pretty new for anglers.
They were.
It had his phone number. I didn't dare call that, but it had his email.
Okay.
And so I clicked on the email. I just said, man, you know, I'm a big fan of you and the sport, and there's a lot of them I was fans of. He just happened to have an email address there.
Sure.
I hit him with it. I'm like, I want to do what you do so bad. I've wanted to since I was a kid.
Yep.
Any advice?
Right.
You know, any advice. Not hitting up for fishing spots like this new generation likes to do. None of that kind of stuff. Straight up, like, what do I got to do? And he replied. He replied, and like, oh, I thought it was huge. All of a sudden I had to reply on my email. And he just said, you know, fish every day, start local, catch them, and make sure people know about it. Tell people what you're doing. That's what they want to know at the end of the day. That's why we have a job. Never had a conversation with a man in my life. I wish I would have. But I just kind of took that and ran. And it's something I think about all the time when I'm trying to reply to kids. And that's one thing I'll say. You know, you gotta promote what you're doing, and you can't be so secretive. We all have some secrets we don't want to let out when it comes to fishing.
Yep.
But you know, if the more knowledge you can put on somebody, the more people are going to listen to you.
You can give them a snack. You don't got to give them the whole kitchen, right?
And it's my job.
Kids love snacks.
Yeah,
I love snacks.
And sometimes I'll give them the whole kitchen because it's my job to outfish you.
Totally.
It's just my job to outfish you. It's what we get paid to do.
Yep.
And, you know, at some point you just got to be better. You know, you can learn everything in the world. Doesn't
Absolutely.
mean you can go out there and do it, right?
I totally, man. And there's definitely something to be said about that. But you said something that I think really hit home with me because, you know, something my dad and, you know, mentors of mine have always taught me. And I think it rings true with what you've done is, you know, giving value and, you know, make sure you're promoting them like to the potential where they don't even have to ask whether they need to give you stuff. Like a lot of people don't understand, I think, the game and how it works in that sense, where it's like everybody wants to get stuff from sponsors, but do people really understand what it takes to give those companies enough value where that is worth their, you know, time and dollars and funds and all of that to invest in you, because you're an investment. So you want to make sure that those sponsors are getting a strong return on that, so that they then, you can keep them, and you build that trust up. So, what are some ways that, that you, obviously boat wraps, like everyone
Sure.
says, oh, I'll put you on my boat wrap, I'll put you on my jersey. But I mean,
Nah, it's not.
anyone, no,
I mean,
there's a lot
boat
more
wrap-
to that.
Yeah. Boat wraps are important, because I remember somebody driving with somebody and they pointed to a billboard, said, did you see that billboard? And I said, yeah. And we kept going. He's like, you see that billboard? I'm like, yeah. He's like, what'd it say? After we were past it. I'm
Right.
like, oh, whatever. Viagra pill. Who knows? Whatever it was.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Just
yeah.
like whatever. You read them.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know how much those billboards cost? Right there. And it was a dumb number. And I learned this pretty early in my career. It was a big number, like a monthly big number. And I was like, and he said, you should be getting a wrap, because that's a moving target. And no matter who you are, if you're a 7-year-old boy, if you're a 22-year-old gal, if you're an 80-year-old, it don't matter. The bass boats, when they're all glittered up and shit, they catch your eye. You can't help it. You're gonna look at it. It's like 24-inch rims coming by, sparkling. You can't help it. It catch your big jacked up truck. It catches your eye. Way more even than that billboard does. So he says, so what's that worth?
For sure.
To travel up and down the road. So those kind of things are, and the jersey is, but this day and age, we're really lucky. We're so much better off if you're willing to work and you have a marketing brain and a concept of that. Some people just think, here's my fish. I can't post something unless I have a fish. There's so much more to it. So, it's the work ethic. It's what you said, no, because it goes both ways, and I want to produce so that I keep making money, and I keep my dream alive. That's really all I want to do. I live in a little house on the side of Lake Mille Lacs, not on the lake, across the street from the lake, and I guide and stuff like that. So that's what really makes me happy, is fishing. But at the same time, I also don't want the pressure of not succeeding for them too. Because that can really affect your fishing at the end of the day. If you're feeling like the business side, that's when what ends up happening, dude, is your passion and what you're one of the luckiest people in the world to be able to do, truly, becomes a job. Right. And my goal is to not make it a job, make it fun, so that I'm doing this, and at the same time, if you can put together, and again, I'm gambling on myself. I'm gambling that I got some really big derbies ahead of me, that I got some big tournaments, and if somebody's lucky enough to have both the business mind, the marketing skills and set, and at the same time can be an assassin on the water, then you start getting into guys like Gerald Swindle or Brandon Pollock, which don't get me wrong, are way up here, but there's got to be a goal, or what am I doing it for? And then you're looking at the King Kong in the room, and stuff like that. So, then all of a sudden you're looking at fishing as being, you turn into a generational type angler or something like that. And that's really, really good. But the marketing's important. I mean, I try to be a realistic person. Like, we only really have a job. There's a lot of people that can compete as a professional angler. Trust me, there's way more that won't, and that it'll affect and slow down their fishing and stuff like that. But there's a lot of people I've met in my life that have the skill set to be a Bassmaster Elite Series angler. For sure, they do. They have it. But at the end of the day, you got to have a lot. You got to be willing to risk a lot and all that kind of stuff at the same time.
Yeah, and if you don't have the sponsor backing, you better hope you catch them at every tournament. No one does. No. Right? But I think, so a little bit more on this, and then we can move on. But, so it's a little bit tough nowadays, and I'm not taking anything away from what you've done, but I do feel like you really, more so to your credit, you got in on the front end of a lot of things on the business side and the social media side, and now, I mean, I think a lot of people might think that it's maybe tough to break through, because you have now every pro feels they need a YouTube channel, and on top of that, every fisherman needs a YouTube
and a
channel
and a record it.
Yeah, and all this stuff. You've got so many people trying to get in, and the algorithms change, so you maybe can't reach as many people organically as as you used to. You know, what advice would you have, like, for maybe somebody who's maybe trying to get in now and break through? Is there anything you did that kind of was different during your time that maybe separated you, or any advice or ideas for, you know, somebody who wants to do what you do and break through that kind of information craziness barrier we're dealing with nowadays?
Yeah, and there is, you know, I was young enough to get in on that, but at the same time old enough to not be good enough at getting a ton of followers fast and doing all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, you know, advice to actually, you know, for them anglers is honestly, I always said this before to guys like Figgy and Seth and stuff like that. It's like, be like the rappers, you know. If you look at rappers,
Figgy Smalls.
And they do stuff with each other, and they boost each other's following and stuff like that.
Right.
Or you can be just you, and then you can't never tap into other people's markets and grow it. And stuff like that. You know, so just working with other anglers.
Put a feature on the track,
including people doing stuff like what we're doing right now, where you could sit here and have a podcast, do whatever you wanted to do, but you're bringing in us and you're letting us do this, and you get something out of it, I get something out of it, and that's just the way the business works, you know. And then I've been a giant, and then this will work for the marketing and the fishing side. You just need to get in the boat with as many people as you can. It's a whatever, you know, it's not my quote to say, but if you're not living, if learning, you're dying. You just have to. And it gets harder and harder as you get older, but you just got to keep, you know, focusing back in that you don't know everything. So if you can get in the boat, you will learn something. I don't even care if you're a far superior angler than that person. You'll learn how to better pack a sandwich. You will learn something that will benefit you that day. And that'll help. And then at the same time, you know, then you also get that cross marketing and all, which is all these companies want now, is cross marketing and all that kind of stuff. Is how it works. But the business side's huge. You know, for me, I mean, it was tough because I did, you know, it looks like it was turnkey for me once I got the elite qualification. It was pretty easy. I was the business side and coming up with the money and stuff
made it easier.
Was very easy, you know, for me, because I was already FLW. I'd already made the top 10 in the cup. I had done some stuff that I was building all that. So it was just a congratulations, you're in, you know, good job, Josh. Thank you. At the same time, if you just qualify, if you really think that you're just get a qualification, and if you have a good job and you walk away from that job, you know, for that carrot, I get it. I'm willing to risk it all for that carrot too. But the money just, you know, it just doesn't. And I still got a long way to go for me to be where I want to be. But like, it can be real rough, and it makes fishing real tough when you don't know if you got the money to run. And then another thing is there's kind of a recession or something going on right now, making it tough for a lot of people to justify putting the money up like they did a couple years ago. Good for me, and obviously you went through it too. There was a recession then. I remember being dirt broke and putting, you know, almost $5 unleaded into my truck in my boat, and wondering if Holiday would give me a loan, pay for it, you know, to get to the next tournament. So I think a lot of that kind of setup helped too, and just it forces you to have a little bit of a business mind, you know, if you're going to make anything a profession.
Well, I felt for anybody traveling last summer because that was I luckily couldn't drive back in 2008 or whenever gas prices were that much then or whatever, but you almost won an Open too.
I did, yeah.
I don't forget that. I think you might have lost a couple fish too, but I was rooting for you so hard that event. And I think you maybe come close a couple other times too. But the difference between guys and, you know, a local weekend angler, an Opens angler, and an elite angler, I think there's a ton of fishermen that have insane amounts of talent, and I think there's more fishermen that I think maybe could fish at that level. But looking at our weekend tournaments, we don't have multi-day events. Events,
there's a big learning curve.
And we don't have shad unless you go to the river.
It's a big one.
And I think the hurdle, like for us up here, and you know, doing what you've done, can you speak to that? Like how How can you describe that competition level? Because it's like you could dominate locally and then go get your absolute teeth kicked in nationally.
Oh,
Like,
it happens way more than it on the other side. It's just not in the limelight.
Yeah.
For anyone to see it happen. My learning curve, in all honesty, I was bound and determined.
right. You even moved
to
down
live
there.
my dream. I did. I moved to Tennessee for
gonna ask
like
you
a year and a
about
half just
that.
to
Yeah.
learn how to fish like the Tennessee River and stuff, knowing that we always are gonna go
every year.
every year.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I did move down there for a little bit before I came back home. The plan was to probably come back home
Sure.
and stuff like that. But,
Sure.
what was the main part of that?
No, I got a little ADD on
you're
that
good.
one.
I
for
have
sure.
it, so
And,
we can jump all
Most
over.
fishermen do, so everyone understands. We're good. Well, let's maybe. I mean, I have so many things. We could talk about, but that open.
Oh yeah, the
like,
open. Yeah. So
Did you take second?
I did.
Yeah.
I've taken second. I've taken third. I took a third in FLW tour.
You're a hell of a bridesmaid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, no.
And I say that like most people would dream of being a bridesmaid in an open. You know.
like I took third on Kentucky Lake, fifth at a Kissimmee in a tour event. Both those I never really had a chance to win. I don't think I ever felt like I was going to win that tournament. The Kentucky Lake one was
That was a ledge deal, right?
that? Yeah, the ledge deal, the fight that broke out between
Oh.
Randy Haynes and
Haynes and
Lambert.
Lambert.
Yeah, so thank God Haynes took his boat and went home literally, because then I would have taken fourth, but instead I took third because he left.
That was a wild story.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't really even know what necessarily happened in that deal. It was kind of crazy, but it was fun because I remember, back even when we were fishing, that was my big goal, going to Kentucky Lake in a big ledge derby and trying to take it down. But yeah, I never felt like I could win. Rayburn was a turning point tournament for me.
Sure.
If you want to get into it. I mean,
I'd love to. Yeah.
Rayburn was a big deal. I'll just be brutally honest. I always wanted to be an Elite Series angler because I was from Minnesota, and I think FLW always had a big following, especially in other states. And up here, should have had bigger. Technically,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
almost out of here. A
Yeah.
part of them
Right.
was.
Right.
And I used to look back in the day watching Elite tournaments and FLW tournaments, like they were kind of they were pumping out anglers, Brent Ehlers, and they just had them coming. And if you historically look back at even qualifiers over the last 10 years, if you came through the FLW, you kind of had some chops.
For
You
sure.
know what I mean? So that was a big reason with me getting with the FLW, is I just felt like I wasn't learning under the open format the way it was,
Sure.
especially against a lot of competitors. I also, to go back, I was determined to go pro. That's where we were. I was determined to go pro. So I just, at the local level, I did the federation thing. I had success in the federation. I did the local tournaments, the Bass Weekend Series, stuff like that, team tournament stuff. I had success at the state level.
Right.
And I just kept looking forward. Any money I made, I just kept pushing it forward. So I was absolutely 100% determined. Then I actually got to the opens.
Right.
And yeah, you have the no shad and all that, but I just flat out didn't have the funds. I had the dead desire, did not have the funds, did not have the skill set to be a Elite Series angler by no stretch of the imagination, did I? But I had a sponsor that I worked fiercely hard for.
Yeah.
And that, I had the money, so I didn't just want to take that and fish locally. I wanted to put that. And I can remember telling some of my best of friends, like, man, I'm probably going to get my butt kicked for a few years, but I'm going to figure this deal out.
Sure.
And I've got to take advantage of this.
Are you ready to reel in your next home purchase or refinance? Supreme Lending's Dream Team can help guide you through the entire mortgage process, from pre-qualification to closing. They have a wide variety of home loan programs in their tackle box, including down payment assistance and first-time homebuyer options. Just ask me. I trusted Aaron Dagas, a bass fisherman just like you and me, and Supreme Lending's Dream Team to help finance my first home. Contact Aaron Dagas and the Dream Team today by scanning the QR code or giving them a call at 763-326-0677. That's 763-326-0677. Did I catch a 7 in there? Or visit their website, aarondagas.supremelending.com. That's AARONDAEGES.supremelending.com. This episode is brought to you by just north of Memphis Barbecue. This is World Champion Barbecue. If you smoke meat and you don't like good barbecue, I do not know what to tell you right now besides you need to try some of this stuff. They've got their rub. They've got their sauces right on their website. They've got their famous dry rub award-winning seasoning that you could put on ribs, brisket, pulled pork, chicken, wings, anything you like to put on the smoker, on the oven, on the grill, any meat you like to cook, you need some of this dry rub seasoning in your life. But don't forget the sauce, because that's award-winning world champion sauce here. No matter what flavor you like, they've got 3 different sauces, and they are all good. You can drink them straight out the bottle. We've got Sweet Christie's for all you sweet-loving barbecue folk. We've got Christie's Mischief for all you spicy bass anglers out there. And then we've got Christie's Gold. And they'll sell all 3 of them in a combo. But you need to go to their website right now. It's jnomemphis.com. That's jnomemphis.com. Dry rub, sauce, barbecue. Let's go!
Opportunity, because the opportunity was there.
It was.
And a lot of people can blow a chance at a dream by just not taking the chance at an opportunity as well. So I wasn't ready, but I did. I learned real hard. So anyway, the FLW, learned a bunch, learned a ton. I learned how to be a bass pro. I learned 4-day tournaments. I fished against Brian Thrift. You fished against,
Dudley,
a bunches of them. Bunches of
Clausen.
them. Half of the elite field today. You know what I mean?
Right.
Half the Bass Pro Tour field.
Yep.
I learned hard. And my first year, not so good. My second year, I technically shouldn't have made the Cup, but I technically should have. I got disqualified at St. Clair for having a wrong fishing license. So, but
remember that.
That I knew that was a whole nother
that had to sting.
Heartbreaker story. But that gave me the confidence. Everything kind of happened in different things leading up to this Rayburn tournament. Next year came out, made the Cup, top 10'd it. And then some stuff happened. Then the MLF FLW thing happened.
Right.
And I didn't like it. But I also wasn't chosen because I didn't have the resume to go to the elites.
Sure.
Rightfully so. Everyone that they took had a better resume, than me. So I was kind of stuck in this position. Well, when I walked off the FLW, the Cup stage, I was pretty happy, like looking at guys like Brian Thrift and Dudley and tons of them that have made good livings being FLW pros. And then all of a sudden this MLF thing happened, and I didn't get a decision. I'm kind of glad I didn't get a decision because, man, what a tough one those guys had to make.
Right.
All of them. Some made right ones for themselves. Some made bad ones for themselves.
Like a bunch
but
of bad ones.
I'm kind of glad, looking back, I never had a decision. I just had to go to work, fish. And the MLF came, and I tried to make it work, but I just wasn't loving it. I didn't like the direction that MLF wanted to take bass fishing. And a lot of things have changed. I'm not really political. I really, tournament organizations like casinos, they win every day. There's a new winner every day. They get their money.
Yep.
So it's I'm not, the heart wanted the Bassmasters, but I was starting to kind of let business and that I was going up a ladder work for me.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, there was kind of that deal going on, and COVID happened, and they paused everything, and I got time to really kind of think about it.
Sure.
And really wasn't loving it, and I started looking at the opens, and I changed my schedule all around because they switched the schedule around. So I was kind of done with the opens and going the FLW route.
I gotcha.
So I jumped in some fall tournaments because they had to cancel tournaments, reopen them. So basically, it was a free-for-all if you want to get in those opens that 2020 year.
Sure.
And one of them was Rayburn. And I went to Rayburn, and I wanted to flip grass. I'm from Minnesota. That's what I wanted to do. And I struggled for like a day and a half of practice. Caught like maybe 13 pounds if I got lucky. That's like catching one that got off and like, that might have been a 4. Like that kind of fishing.
Yep.
And so that other half day, I think I had 4 days to practice. So I had a day and a half down. And that half day, nothing. I went no deep, found spots. The next day I woke up, I started idling. I went right over the top of a brush pile right by the boat ramp. So I started idling around more and more, and I found like 15 of them that were juicy. Looked good. I'd go over them. My Lowrance would be a big dot there.
Sure.
And I never fished them. And then I swung around. I fished that very first one by the ramp. I threw my worm dirt, never hit the bottom. I caught a 7.5 pounder.
Damn.
This is a fall tournament.
Yeah.
You know, and Rayburn's good, but
grinder in the
everything's
fall.
grimy in the fall. Yeah.
Down south.
And I never made another cast in that tournament. So a lot of things started happening.
In
My
practice?
confidence level, in practice,
Yeah,
yep. I
yep.
idled the rest of the time.
Yep.
So a couple things happened. One, my confidence as an angler in that practice started to change. I used to feel like I needed to move around the lake a lot and find, and a lot of that kind of changed in the FLW stuff. So now we're already teetering out of the FLW and into the MLF stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't always have the confidence to idle over something and be like, that's good.
Right.
And I'm naturally want to be offshore. That's what I want to naturally do. I like flipping a jig and throwing frog with the best of them.
Yep.
But I don't like fishing behind people, going down a bank, stuff
It's not
like
my
that. I'm
favorite
not
either.
that, and a lot of that's gut check time, and maybe I just don't have that when you're going down a thing. You feel like, but I get offshore, I feel like I can creep around and find stuff just better than you. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, and that's when that attitude started to happen, and so I never made another cast. I idled, and I had 82 or 86 brush piles. And I started getting cocky. Like, I started figuring out where them crappie guys are putting them, and I idled all that and stuff. And I got good, and I'm like, I'm just going to rotate them. I'm going to run them like rocks on Mille Lacs.
Sure.
I'm just going to
Ran the boulder pattern on the brush.
And I did, and I started smashing them. And I lose some. I kind of had a swim bait deal right away, a worm, and then a drop shot was my last thing. And that drop shot I knew before I started was going to cost me fish. But if you're not getting bit after my first couple, you know, what are you going to do? You got to get bite. And I did land big ones, but I definitely lost some, double-digit fish in that tournament. That I had one. I'll never forget it, dude. I still think it was my PB. But I sat there and what was Active Target's very first thing? Live sight?
Oh, live. Yeah,
Live
I think
sight.
it was live sight.
So it was okay. It was like Gen
okay.
1
Yep.
Panoptics, so I could see the brush pile a little bit. But
Yep.
my thing was I'd come at them. You could only see 60 or something like that.
Not real
so
far.
I probably had it at 60. So I'd come up at the waypoint at like 100. I'd fling the swim bait at it or the jig or the worm.
Yep.
And that's how I usually get the big bite right away. Boom.
Sure.
And then if I didn't, I'd start creeping in on it using that live sight.
Yep.
Get in and then throw a drop shot. Well, on this one brush pile, there's a damn dot in the middle of it. I could see it clear as day. He was just sitting there confident in that brush pile. I just kept going. And all of a sudden, I put my drop shot in. And, I got close enough where I could see the drop shot fall right to him. And it kind of moved a little bit, the dot.
God.
And it was just like a sonar-y dot.
Yeah.
Not like Active
This
Target
blob,
now. This blob
I mean,
kind of moved. And all of a sudden, my line just dropped. I hit him. And I'm like, zzz, and he comes out of the brush pile. But my line is in the brush pile, and he comes out about 5 feet behind the brush pile with a mouth like this and just wallows right there, and then goes back into the brush pile, but of course didn't go in the same way it came out.
Yeah.
And that one, and then there's a couple on film and stuff.
Yep.
And you lost. And at the end of the day, Masayuki beat me. And running a similar pattern, and talk about another awesome story. A dude just comes over from Japan.
That's wild.
And you gotta have a set. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just who does that? Like
Massive balls.
I think
Yeah.
I do. And here I'm watching a dude from Japan doesn't speak English come over
Yeah.
and did. And here's the thing: it was kind of an extra kick because we were in the line. And Masa didn't speak much English. We're pretty good. We're pretty tight. You know, it's funny how the sport is.
Yep.
The guy just beat me on the thing that I want the most in the world.
Right.
And now I got the utmost respect for him.
Right.
We're buds.
Yep.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? And he,
Yep.
he was fortunate to get on that front side of that. But in the line, even Chris Bose thought I won. He was like prepping it and all that. Like, Josh, you've been at these for, so long. How's it feel? What would a classic mean to you?
Right,
And all that kind of stuff, right? And I'd look at Moss, everyone's kind of looking at bags in the bag line, checking everything out. And Massa was like right behind me. He just wasn't in a mood. He was nervous. Now that I know, he was nervous,
Right.
but he kind of looked like he was upset. And I'd ask him, be like, I didn't know him at all at the time, but I'm like, you got him. The bag looks pretty good. No, I don't got him. No. And I was like, you don't got him.
Sure.
Well, what I later found out from his translator at the time, was a friend of mine. He just didn't know English, so he's telling me no English. No. Like, he knew he had him. He was just he was very, very close to winning.
Yeah,
And so anyway, I got to cross the stage. I got to feel that, really thinking I had it, and then all of a sudden Maso rips out these two giants, and I lost it by 1.5 pounds or whatever.
Sandbagger?
No, it was awesome, but
1.5 pounds.
I got in my truck. You put on a face and put your chin out and all's good. You know what I mean? It's awesome tournament for me.
Huge tournament.
So I had that. I had the fact that, man, wow, that just almost happened. 225, and not only that, they opened it up. So this had like all of Rayburn's hammers.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
In that
Yeah,
event.
locals,
So it was like, and I did it my way. I did it the way I wanted to do. I went there on preconceived notions, flipping grass, but I didn't force it.
Right.
And then I just rotated out of that, and it was a big tournament. Like things started clicking there.
Yeah.
But then I got in my truck, and I bawled my eyes out like I have never cried since I was a freaking kid, dude.
Sure.
I never saw that one coming. When I literally had to go in and thinking I'm in the Forest Wood Cup in my second year in the FLW tour, and then they make me throw my smallmouth back because I had the wrong license. I never once shed a tear.
Sure.
It was tough.
Yep.
But that was kind of like I knew, and I didn't care what anyone ever thought. I never cared about that.
Right.
I knew I could make it.
Yep.
That was big.
Right.
You know, that's huge. When you start getting that kind of like, oh man, I can do this, and then backed it up. But what also happened is not only was I completely freaking heartbroken that I didn't just make the Classic, I was even more heartbroken because I realized how bad I wanted to be in the Bassmaster Elite Series.
Yeah.
And then I go on and watch a good buddy win the AOI, which, again, I mean, I got a lot of anglers in Minnesota, and we can talk about them later, whatever, like that I look up to that have helped me in anything like that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Fighter deserves he's the one. I've been chasing that dude's coattails since literally back in the day, them Silverado tournaments.
Yeah.
Hell, he was at it before I was.
Right.
He was already had a bullseye on his back, but he was one I just picked out, and, man, I want to beat that dude. You know what I mean? And I've gotten a couple. He's gotten dozens. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he does what he does, but he won the biggest title in all bass fishing.
Right.
So now you're like, man, God dang it. And I'm watching Austin qualify, and I'm watching these dudes go for it. Andy Young, who's a good buddy, make a Classic and stuff. And things just became all on this bass side, and it was like, and now I kind of felt, man, I'm stuck. I'm over here, and I got to fish this, which they're never going to let me fish enough opens to qualify.
Sure.
I've been at it for so many years. Can I qualify?
Yep.
All that. And basically from that moment on, I believe it was in it would have been the next year, 2021. I went on. I did not have a very good MLF outing that year. I smashed them in the opens. My heart was really about being in the elites. And I went, I think I had a 42nd or something at Harris Chain, 7th at third at Douglas. Yeah. And that one I never, I had a great tournament. I was catching them offshore and everyone else was up on the bank. I think the only one.
That's cool.
Looking at, or out catching them on hair jigs on the chicken and cranking and stuff like that.
Cool.
Pre-spawn, post-spawn, smallies, larges, super awesome tournament. Matter of fact, my coin, there's caught a couple and good for them, but man, if I could have got those, maybe I could have won. But I came from like 8th to 3rd on the final day. So it was like, oh, sweet, get a trophy and a little extra money and we're out of here. And then 7th at Lake Norman, which was very odd because if you look at my career, I generally do well in Florida. I definitely do well in the offshore and the smallmouth stuff. But spotted bass have crushed me every single year, which we're 1,000 miles away from a spotted bass.
You can maybe tell me. I think I was talking to Fighter about this. I mean, how many people from Minnesota have you seen go win a spotted bass tournament or take top 5 fishing spots? I haven't seen it. I can't think of a single name besides you on Norman.
Okay, but Gussie's just north of us.
That's fair.
He might be top 3 spotted bass fishermen. Him, Cody Meyer.
Yeah.
But
That's a good point.
Gussie's top 5 in my book.
That's crazy.
Sure, spotted bass fishermen.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
But basically, how he just won the Classic is a technique that you could use for. Maybe I don't even know. So he understands. And he's always done good on Smith Lake and stuff like that. And Kentucky spots don't really count. That's more of a I got one, make me feel a little better in the box. But them Alabama spots, them
Coosa spots, baby.
They're big and they're badass. And
you want them Coosa spots?
Yeah. So it was. In Norman didn't have those, but it's the predominant. They have a lot of spotted bass, and they're what ended up getting me in.
Sure.
To the elites
spots.
Was spotted bass.
Yeah.
And, just a determination to get there.
Sure.
When I got there. So, yeah, Rayburn will always be, I definitely hope I'm hoisting blue trophies and winning events. No doubt I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't think I could or won't. But Rayburn will always be like I said, I'm not, the Forest Wood Cup meant a ton, and it was the last Forest Wood Cup ever. So that's kind of cool.
That is cool.
I got that and all that, and I respect the hell out of the fishermen that organization made me. But the heart wants what it wants, and maybe 20 years from now it'll be different for the kids coming up, whatever. But I wanted to be an Elite Series angler, and I was watching the dream fade away in that tournament. It's just something I've learned, man. If things are meant to be, you can't stop it.
Sure.
If things are meant to go wrong, you can't stop it.
Yeah.
And if you just, when it happens, timing's perfect, man. If it's meant to be, timing's perfect.
It's meant to be. It's meant to be.
Yep.
Yeah.
And but that tournament will always go down for me in my mind, and one that I will never ever forget a single second of that tournament. It meant a bunch. So. Yeah,
man. I was rooting so hard for you. I'm sure losing those fish was heartbreaking, but I mean, the battle you're fighting anyway. And we use an owner cover shot hook.
Yeah.
You turned me on to that. That's a bad little hook.
And I never lost. Like, that's the other thing. Like, I never broke one off.
No.
I was using 12-pound test only, something like that. I'm not really a 6, and I despise 6. Sometimes I'll throw 8.
I like 8.
Yeah, 8, I mean, 8 gets you bit when you need it. It is, and it's gotten a lot stronger. Like, I do trust 8. 10 would be my favorite in the spinning department.
Sure.
Just for zebra mussels, docks, and any of that kind of stuff. But 12, you're dealing with potentially a damn 13-pounder on Sam Rayburn or something. You just never know what the hell you're going to catch.
Yep.
And brush piles.
Right.
And stuff like that. But, yeah, the cover shot and just get them on, get them in. But, again, the lost fish, you can look at it, what it could have done. Yeah, I had pretty big bags every day. Regardless, I definitely lost ones that I could have won the tournament on. But never did I break off. You just get bushed, like those ones that you just can't. They wrap you around. You can't do nothing. You don't have no more leverage.
Right.
To get them in. And I'm sure Massa loses. I watch live. I watch guys win tournaments. They still lose fish all the damn time.
True.
But when it's meant to be, it'll happen.
Right. So I've never asked anyone this, but it's kind of a cool time to do it. If you've seen Forrest Gump, when he visits the president asks, how's it feel to be an American? I have to pay. How's it feel to fish the Bassmaster Elite Series?
Yeah, dude,
once you qualified, what was that feeling like? It
was good. Oh, man. I mean, when I qualified, it was huge. Like that.
Yeah.
So since I started fishing, I technically got in by one place without making a cast on day 3. So I was in 7th. Like, Ronnie Moore punched the numbers for me at Norman. I'm pacing back and forth, dude, like an idiot, just looking dumb, pacing. It's
can't blame you.
Yeah, like it's just so you're just like, and I'm used to things not always going my way, so you're just waiting for it to get kicked in the back of the head, and like, oh, so and so came in with a mega bag,
sure,
knocked you out from nowhere,
yeah.
But Ronnie told me, mathematically, what I didn't want to do, I would have, and again, if it was meant to be, it would have happened, so it probably would have happened, but I didn't want to have to go out there on day 3, and like you need to finish 5th or better, and you're in the elites, like, oh my god, but instead I was in.
That's
whether
cool.
I took 10th that 3rd day with only 10 anglers.
Right.
So it was the one and only carefree day of fishing that I really ever had.
Wow.
I had a live boat on me and everything in my boat and all that, and it was just.
You just go
I was
fuck
on
around
kind
all
of
day?
7th heaven. I was good. Yeah, I was still trying to, like, in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm sure I can find a way to screw up today. You know what I mean? Like, how was this? But no, I had a pretty decent day and finished 7th in it and wrapped that up. And the elites are everything you think they will be, you dream they will be. It's you're fishing against the best. The competition is insane. For the most part, everybody gets along.
Yeah.
Like we talked about before, I'm not really a political person. I'm not even talking politics. I'm talking like I'm just not a drama
Stay away
person.
from foreign policy too,
or whatever. Yeah, you know what I mean. I'm just like not much into drama.
Yeah,
There's
that's
enough
cool, dude.
drama.
That's the way to be.
Watching a bass come up and get off,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
a lot of drama. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
going to find you no matter what. So I don't tend to be confrontational with anybody anyway. So
Karma's a bitch.
yeah, so I think everybody's great. At the same time, they're cutthroat as all hell. They're assassins on the water, dude. When the puck drops, they want me to take dead last, and they want to win. That's just what you need to have.
You need to
on that level, and it's the top dog leg. It's the NFL. It's the PGA. Right. Like you're not whatever. So that aspect, but they're all crazy good.
It's the bigs, dude.
Yeah, and then at the same time, it's stressful. I can't say it's not, in a good way, but it's been stressful the whole time. But
Right.
there's stress. If we'll see,
Right.
where it goes. So far, it's been good. I just missed the classic last year, so I really wish I would have made it. It was definitely the hardest classic I've ever had. Being there as an open angler, you're like doing a good job working for your sponsors,
Yeah,
running
you wanna
around,
fish that
and you're
shit.
like, you're
Yeah.
like, well, I had to win one to actually be in this
Right.
thing, so whatever, I'm here to do it.
Well, they only take 30, right?
Right, but
Yeah.
when it's damn near half your field that you're watching out there and you're thinking of a key bass here or there you lost or a bad
Oh, I can
decision
only
you made,
imagine.
and
Yeah.
now you're working as an elite angler, it
Yep.
really was extra motivation. And Gussie and I are pretty close, so it was cool to see. Like, he was definitely the angler that I'm the closest to ever win a classic.
Sure, he's great.
So-
Seems like
so-
a great dude.
Yeah. Oh no, a peach. So he, so to see him win and all that kind of stuff, and it's and there, it makes you a guy really, really hungry
Yeah.
to do it. Now, I really haven't had any crazy bad tournaments. I think my worst one last year was 81 out of like 94 on Harris Chain, of all places, the place I've cashed the most checks on. But that's the preconceived notion.
Yeah,
thing,
that'll
right?
get you.
Sometimes
Memories
the
are
ones
haunting.
you know the best are the ones that hurt you, and never offset that last year at the top 20. I got
Yep.
five checks and a couple of those small checks.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then, but I had that 81 and never offset it with the top 20
Right.
to get into the classic.
That was your first year, right?
Yeah, that's my first
I
year.
mean, so, that you're adjusting to that new lifestyle essentially, dude. And
Yeah.
and watching other guys fish the classic, that probably just threw a couple extra birch logs on the
it
old
definitely
fire, dude.
It definitely fired me up. It for sure it did, and even last year, like I said, I had a good enough year that I felt like I could have. A couple mistakes, a couple things I wish I would have, taken back. Again, everybody has that. Even the AOY champ has things that they could
Right.
take back. Now this year it's put. I want to have a couple bangers, dude. I want to
Yep.
see what that's like. I
Totally.
got on live a couple times last
You
year,
did?
having
Yeah.
big days and stuff, but never. I haven't had that tournament yet where it just clicks for every day. And oddly, some of my best tournaments were lakes I've never been, like Santee Cooper. So when I had like 16 pounds day one, which is sadly mediocre on Santee Cooper, right at the check line,
Yep.
and then had
Yep.
like a big 28-pound day the second day.
Remember that?
And they
Yeah.
canceled day three. I had a live vote for what was the next day three.
Yep.
And, the big wind is why they canceled it. So the areas I was fishing were really blown out. And it takes you till 10 or 11 o'clock
Yeah.
to realize. And then you're like, oh, shit, where am I going to go now?
Right.
What am I going to do? It's a rat's nest to move around. It's not
Yeah.
like I'm doing like Seminole. It ain't like you
Yeah.
can just say, I'm just going to go see what's over here 2 miles. Like
Sure.
you got to idle that or something. You
Yep.
can't just do it. So, I want to get a couple, even a Wahi. I felt like I was on the fish to win. And just fork. I probably never was on the fish to win, but I had 2 big days and then a bad day.
Sure.
And a bad day, not like, I want my bad day to be a 15, 16 pound day, not
Mm-hmm.
a 10 or 11. So I think if I can, get kick some of that to the curb and it'll come to good. So I think last year was good for me. You're always going to wonder if you should be there. You're always going to wonder if you're good enough. These guys you've looked up to your whole freaking life or whatever, that seem to get the job done when they need to get the job done. You always are going to wonder if you got what it takes.
I always do, and I don't think I beat myself up about it even sometimes. Like,
Oh, for sure. That's
Yeah.
natural.
I know, and we're our own worst critics, right? But yeah,
Always.
it like doing something like you do has always been tough for me, just because I feel like there's so many anglers that maybe I think are better than me, or I have so much respect for the other people that I fish against or people around me that it's tough to maybe bet on yourself sometimes like that, or believe that hey, I should be here.
Well, yeah,
Like,
you got to.
you have to.
You're there. I mean,
Right.
You're there. And
You're
you
there.
put the work in to get there, and you're
You should
good
be there,
enough to
dude.
get there. Right. But it's nice, to see like, oh, okay. So now kind of this year, it's, I didn't get off to the great. I didn't have I mean, you always want to make the cuts and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
my goal for the second season, I told myself if I can get paid in every tournament, I'll make it.
Sure.
And whether that's a $2,500 check or definitely the ones you want, the $10,000 checks. But you can't be in that group, that quarter that doesn't get. That's tough, because then all of a sudden you're you need top 10s just to offset
Right.
that, just
You
to
need
get
a
back
really
to
good one.
middle.
Yep.
And that's kind of where you learn. I think that was a big thing last year too, is you got to remember, dude, I fish against 225 boats every day. Or 219 in the FLW Pro Circuit, Super Term, whatever the hell that was going on there. It was like boats everywhere. So all of a sudden, like how you learn to fish a tournament, not saving water, what weights you think you need, or what you got to do. You get to the elites, and dude, you got to smash them every day. There's 100.
Right. Yep.
There's only 100 there, and learning like that was just a real
Your
quick
field was
deal.
cut in half.
And I learned, at least I was lucky enough to learn it at the second tournament at Harris Chain, where I think I had like 12 and 12, 11 and 13, something like that. And generally in an open with that many boats,
Right.
you're going to get paid.
Yeah.
But to finish 81st out of 94 with that weight, I just never got a 5-pounder. You know what I mean? Like I was catching 2-pounders. I just never got that big bass that you have to have in Florida. And then to be like looking at it like that, or to come in the first day at Santee Cooper with 16 pounds, and you're looking at 31-pound bags, and everybody's got, and you're on the check line. You're like, 16 pounds is hard. I don't care where you fish, what you do.
Yep.
16 pounds a day is never easy.
In the South, for sure.
You know, right.
Yep.
I mean, smallmouth and stuff, but even them. I mean, you go to you go to any of these good ones, you get 7 bites, you get 16 pounds. But still, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I do.
Come in and be like, oh, dang, I didn't think I had a terrible day. Right. But now I need to go double my weight tomorrow and stuff like that. And that's they're that good, and the field size makes it to be where you got to put up big weights to do something,
Well, I can attest to just the challenge of fishing in the South, A, and B, fishing multi-day events, which to me is tough, right? So my 2 big national or southern tournaments I've fished have both been on Lake Hartwell, where Dane and I qualified for nationals. And
tricky one.
Oh my gosh, that lake is tricky, man. Like the first time we went down, we went spotted bass fishing and absolutely got stomped by largemouth.
Yeah.
So we're like 225
Probably vice versa
boats.
the other way.
Like we're put all our eggs in that largemouth basket, dude. Like we're trying to go to the classic. So we did that. We had an epic practice on largemouth.
Sweet.
But we had fog delays both days of the tournament. Post front, bluebird skies, calm. The largemouth don't. Like, that's a morning lake A with the herring. And locals ended up winning, and it was stressful because it's like you have a good practice, right? You have something figured out.
Oh,
you feel like you feel one with whatever, and then everything spins on you, and you're behind on the adjustment.
Oh, yeah.
To the point where you have to, like, double down on what you're doing because you need to catch a big bag day two to come back.
Yep.
It's such I mean, we went round and round after that tournament on, do this or we should have done this or should have done that, should have done blah, 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 blah. But I can't,
how do you know? I mean,
you're
talking about a spotted bass.
Right.
You've been there twice.
Right.
So you don't
know.
You can't beat yourself up too much, right? Because you got, we all want to be good, right?
Yep.
And I'm definitely, I think if there's anything, people look at my career and say, I don't never try to make it an excuse for nothing. It's just, it is what it is, man. I just want to go bass fishing. That's it at the end of the day. But
I like that.
Take yourself at Hartwell. You're from, I guess we can call us northwestern Minnesota, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Minnesota.
Minnesota. Yeah. You're from Minnesota.
Rural Minnesota.
We don't have spotted bass.
Mm-mm.
Okay. We definitely don't have cane piles. Hell, it's illegal. I don't even think we have cane that grows here.
Right.
We definitely don't have blueback herring. And there is largemouth.
Right.
But those largemouth are keyed in on blueback herring.
They are.
That's a completely different bass than anything that we have within
it's so
1,000 miles of here. So if it's not working and the day changes and it's different than practice, you have to make a change. But to what?
Right.
Exactly. And that's you don't know. And you know.
We put our eggs in the shallow basket. Yep. Dirtier water. And we had really good pattern going for filler fish and kickers. Stop sticking the kickers. Cut the hook off the jig, and we should have. We right outside of them. Pockets. We maybe should have looked in that 20 to 30 foot zone with the forward facing sonar a little earlier, but ifs and buts are candy and nuts,
That's so
we'd
weird.
all have a Merry Christmas.
And where would you ever do that pattern around here? You know what I mean? So definitely.
Green Lake.
Yeah. So, it's just one of those deals that it does. So you really don't have a choice but
Double
to try
down.
to stick with what's working and what did work and try to grind it out, because how do you adjust if you don't have much? I'll tell you, I'm not much of a pull-on fish guy.
You shake them all off for the most
No,
part?
I hit them.
Oh, you. Oh, I got
'em.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, I smack them.
You
If
stick
that's
'em.
one thing. If I'm going to run around, if I need to, that's something that I learned halfway through my opens career.
Sure.
For me, everybody's different.
Everyone's definitely
Everybody's
different
totally
on that.
different. So I never, whatever works for you or anyone else. For me, I just found that if I was wasting time if I was pulling on fish anymore, because what happens to me is if I'm pulling on, I'm just running the same pattern that I already know works. And a lot of time it's shallow that you're pulling on fish.
Yep.
So, like, I can just do that. Now I know kind of what to look for after I've stuck a few good ones. I know what to look for. So I'd probably have been apt to, I'm going to go find me some cane piles now. I got a shallow thing that's going to work.
Yep.
Now I'm going to go find me some cane piles, or I'm going to go do the suspended thing here,
Sure.
find me a bluff wall, or fish a ledge. I'm going to do something a little bit different. So if it ever, like I hit them long enough now to get confidence in what I'm catching and the size I'm catching.
Yep.
And then once I find that, I rarely need to make another cast again. Now,
So you don't cast, you just stop casting.
I don't even,
You
because
just look
what'll
for
happen is not only this for me again, what'll
Yep.
happen is if I'm running shallow, you can't help it. You're expecting to get the bites where you got the bites.
Yep.
And when you don't get the bites where you thought were going to get the bites,
Ah,
the mentality starts to drop no matter what.
that's a good point.
And so what I'm saying is you're best fishing shallow when you're feeling like you're kind of gelling with what's going on, like it was for you in practice.
Yep.
You already knew what was going on. Hell, you're running around pulling on them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
And so
right.
that's where I was a big puller, man, and I had to know where my bites were. Those costed me a lot of opens, early in my career, because I was a spot fisherman from Minnesota,
Right.
like a fishing spot fisherman, and like to have a spot, like to know where I'm going to get my bites, or I was basically a dock fisherman.
Sure.
I fished a bunch of. We even ran boat docks on Green for
We
a
did?
little while. We did. We took a break when our deal kind of.
I'm glad my memory erased that.
We
but-
did, but yeah, we went and banged a couple large, sneaky largemouth.
Oh, there's some
on
big
that
largies
lake.
to be had on
and
docks.
we,
So that's,
But yeah, that's something for me. So like once I feel like I have, especially a shallow pattern worked out, I find it better for me to not look for so much of that stuff. I'll keep an eye on stuff as I'm running around.
Sure.
You know,
Look for
fishing,
areas
for
more?
Stuff that if it's areas.
So you're
like
looking
I'm
at a
gonna
shallow
expand it now in
area.
the tournament. Like I'm
Yep.
all in. So I want, like, I know how to catch a few. Caught a few nice ones doing it.
Sure.
Now I kind of want to use my instinct and just kind of fish around for them in the morning.
I like that.
I'm probably going to back away and practice now and look for plan B
Sure.
and hopefully even a plan C. But my better tournaments, I'm all in on plan A or plan B or whatever, works out. So similar, the weeds.
Yep.
I could have kept looking for, a day and a half at Rayburn, and the first day I caught maybe 14 pounds. Day halfway in, I was maybe halfway to that. Couple bass for 7 pounds. I could have definitely kept going looking for more grass. But now I'm telling myself, okay, I don't know. I can catch a couple big ones. Yeah, you can flip grass in Rayburn in the fall and catch their ass.
Yep.
But at the same time, I can just do that.
Right.
I can just go do that in the tournament. So if that happens, I need to find something else. Then I
Right.
went deep, like 20, 30, and I was just catching little spots. Then I went a little shallower, started finding the brush piles.
Kind of
and then-
mid-range, yeah.
and then had that. And even then, I will take that back. The last day of practice, we had till like noon before we had to be off the water. So I went to stay by the dam.
Sure.
I threw a whopper, plopper, and a buzzbait around. I caught like 1 2-pounder. It didn't seem right.
Yep.
And then I just like scrapped it on. I actually ran all the way down the lake with like only 2 hours left and idled around, found 3 of my brush piles that paid off in the tournament off
Cool.
of that. But for me, that's my deal. I just like, I find it more distracting to catch fish and expect like, oh, I'm going to get one off this dock or
Yeah.
that laydown's good.
Yep. Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And doing that where I just kind of would rather
Right.
figure that out. It's hard for me to get it out of my brain once I already did and start getting discouraged when I'm kind of going
Yeah.
that way. And then then you end up chasing. And then another thing though too, if you end up with too many A, B's, and C's, you rush A before
Yeah.
A happens and go to B and you mess all that up too.
Totally. Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's one of those deals. But dude, that's just that's life. Would you I bet you want to go back to Hartwell and crack their ass one of these days.
Yeah, just like the last time. I mean, just like every time I've been there, I want to go crack their ass. And I guess looking back on it, talking to you, I wish I would have stuck every one of them fish in practice. But
well, if you're fishing for them, and that's just stuff you learn. And I've learned that from anglers better than me that said stuff like, oh, I pull on feel like, what are you pulling on them for?
Right.
and stuff. And it's like, if you needed, and it's different. There's a time and a place, like you're punching mats in Florida and stuff, and you can get by. Some of my biggest regrets are not sticking fish.
That's what
how
I'm
many
saying, dude.
giants
Oh
have
my gosh.
have I freaking pulled on?
Yeah.
Just shook them off. I probably had a 12-pounder in Kissimmee before and just shook his ass off.
Right.
So.
Well, like the first hour and a half of Hartwell, I caught like a 6.5-pounder in the back of a creek on a jig and cut my hook off. And I only got 5 other bites in practice on that jig, but they all them bites felt the same. So I'm just wondering how big a bass I could have caught, in practice. But
did you lose the fish or just they didn't bite because the conditions were different?
I cut the hook off the jig.
No, I know. In the tournament,
conditions were completely different,
and they just didn't. They were doing totally different things.
Yeah, what I learned about them and you've maybe noticed this about them southern reservoirs, is you need inclement. Like inclement weather seems to make them largemouth bite. Yeah. Like there's a morning window every day.
I think that's kind of everywhere. Them largies go a little better and smallies a little better when the sun's out. And stuff
right.
Like that. Yep.
So we knew there's a morning window no matter what the weather was, but there was inclement weather and storms that would roll through in practice that I think kept the bite better throughout the whole day for them largemouth. And
instead of just that morning
bingo.
Fiesta.
And then there's a fog delay tournament day, so everybody missed the morning window. Not a single big bag of largemouth ever got weighed the whole tournament. So that's
how did that fog delay treat you mentally when you were sitting there?
It wasn't good, man.
Was it bothering you that you were missing that morning bite?
Oh, it was. I know it was bothering everybody. And day 2 was really hard because we had a horrible boat draw day 1, so we actually didn't mind it day 1. We were kind of like, okay.
This is helping us.
This is helping us. We have a late weigh-in. This is good. And day 2, we tried to look at it and spin it positively too. There's a fog delay yesterday. Nobody capitalized on a morning window, and we've got a good boat draw today.
So you can
so
get
we're
to
gonna
them
go
as soon
get
as you
to
can
them.
get to them.
And we're gonna have the longest morning window. The fog. That day 2 is really where we were just like we knew we were every minute that passed. We knew we were further and further from being able to do it, but you can't equalize the gap we needed to with spots, or we didn't think we could. We had 10, 11 pounds of largies from day 1, 17 pounds was leading. In hindsight, we could have, because they didn't back it up with 17 pounds of spots again. We only needed 14 pounds of spots a day, which that's kind of what we thought we needed the first go around at Hartwell, and got our asses stomped. Yeah, 4 teams caught largemouth, and it looked like they were fishing a completely different tournament. So, and then there was 220 boats instead of 184. So we realized we didn't feel like we swung hard enough that first go. Mm-hmm. We just kind of played this thing safe, and this was the mega bowl for us. Why
were we playing her safe?
Why were we doing that? Yep. So we went the opposite. We went and swung the big stick all day, and it failed miserably. We should have been playing it safe out deep.
And even a two day event on its own sometimes can make you want to play it safe for day 1 to kind of I'm going to figure out my bite.
Right.
You can't win it, but you can lose it on the first day. All that, but yeah, you can most definitely lose it on the first day if you play it too safe or things don't work. You're looking up. But again, that's all. That's just fishing, and
totally.
That was just something that I kind of done over the course of my career. Is look into I'd look at anglers that I got just utmost respect for, and look into them, look at and they've had terrible tournaments,
right?
Stuff, but it's how you come back. For me, I can hate bass fishing that night. Just pissed off, embarrassed, whatever.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Put a lot of time into this. It's BS. I just lost $5, $6, $7 grand, whatever it costed to be here.
Right.
Stuff like that. But the thing is, for me, man, is I just wake up in the morning hungrier than hell to go back and do it.
Yeah.
And it's the embarrassment or the whatever just kind of leaves. It's gone after that. And it's just more right. I got to be better. I got to get better. I want to be better, but I want it. And then some anglers, they go and they get their butt kicked a couple times, and that's it.
Yeah.
They don't want that no more. They don't want that, for financial reasons, for emotional reasons,
Right.
for
Right.
a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
Families, there's a lot of great reasons why they don't, some bad reasons why they don't, an ego, whatever it could be.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you want it, like guessing you want to get back at them,
Of course. That's all I
bust
think
their
about.
ass,
Yeah.
then dude, anything's possible.
Right.
Then all it was a really sweet learning lesson, dude. What time of year were those tournaments?
That was December both times.
Yeah,
And
grimy time. Well, yeah, no.
it can be really good.
Yeah,
like
I was
that
gonna say, I was
19,
thinking
it was
fall, but
busted.
no,
Just
December.
past the fall
December,
window.
when you're talking about spotted bass on a lake like Hartwell, can take some cold weather and then fish still bite and
Yep.
get them going. So yeah, that could have been a real interesting time to be there.
Man, it's been so cool just learning. Like, you got to look at it positive, right? I got to learn Hartwell at 2 different extremes same time of year.
Yeah.
Like, that's priceless for the next time I go there. And the other thing I learned is I think professional bass fisherman's skin is about a 1/2 inch thicker
Yeah.
than the average Joe, and you really have to roll with the losses. It was tough for me because that was like the only event, right? Like if you only had one Bassmaster Elite Series event to fish a year, that loss would probably feel a lot worse than
Right. Oh,
when
yeah,
you're
yeah,
fishing
yeah.
12 of them. But I almost drove home thinking that was my last outing, but I got mad and I went
Yeah.
to Chickamauga just on a whim, and I had 3 hours. I think I said this on my podcast with Noah, but I don't care. I was like, I only have 3 hours. I don't care if I catch one. I don't care if I catch, but I'm going to absolutely concuss whatever like I'm going to catch
Yeah.
I need to catch a bass right now
Because you're
because
doing it because
mentally
you love it, man. That's why.
well, it's funny, right? We were talking about Noah and I were talking about preconceived notions and doing research and I don't research like watching where people won, and I don't research like what people do. I research like the terrain of a lake, like harder than I try to understand
That's cool.
like-
I think that's better, honestly. Where you're going with it, I'm all about that.
and that's my thing. In Hartwell, I felt really good about the work I put into that before the event, looking at the lake when it was lower and, really finding a cool shallow deal. And we can get into more of that off the record. But it's funny how that research just kicked us right. Like it was worth nothing tournament day, right? And going to a lake like Chickamauga that I'd never been to, did zero research
totally
on.
different lake than you're just at.
Yeah, I just go with my gut. I put a little flat side crankbait in my hand and a chatterbait, and don't catch them on the first spot. I go out to the main river channel. I find a juicy little thing, just fishing you're free, and I waxed them.
Yeah.
And I think about mentally where I'd be at if I didn't stop at Chickamauga on my way home, and there's like the fighter way, right? Which is I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna put my time in, but I'm gonna gut it out and I'm gonna freestyle it.
Yeah,
That's
he's
kind of
learned to
Seth's
make
style.
He's definitely learned to make that work for him. Yeah,
It's insane, and
it's
and
the best way. But yeah,
I've
that's
always
a
been
good way.
envious of that. And
Yep.
maybe that's something I need to like just trust myself to do more.
Yeah.
And maybe Chickamauga on the way home maybe just taught me that a little bit. But I've had so much success like doing the research sometimes in advance, not the spots, not how people are catching them, but like understanding the water I'm fishing. It's hard for me to let go of that, I guess. Do you prepare differently than like how do you break that
I think
down?
it's all a learning lesson. I mean, all the great anglers in the world learned lessons at some point in time. So I'm definitely just a student trying to freaking become awesome. So I really truly feel like I have to always be learning. I don't really like to look at like you'll never be great if you're not learning.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
obviously far away from great, but I'll keep learning as if I'm going to be.
Yeah, you
come
want to be
that
great.
way.
Yep.
And I don't like to do things the way other people have at really anything in life if I can
I like
avoid
that.
it.
Yeah.
So tournaments, I've made all mistakes. You know what I mean? Like you make mistakes. It's just how many times are you going to make that mistake?
Right.
When you're going to learn from that mistake and stop doing that. So like I've done stuff like I said, run around and, oh man, I got bites on 3 laydowns. Now I got to flip every damn laydown on the lake just to get a bite.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, no,
Yeah.
I don't need to do that. I'm teaching them something. I'm going to accidentally hook a couple.
Showing them your
Just like I'll never go back to a spot that if I catch them on day 1 in practice, I probably won't go check it on day 3.
No, yeah.
Because what's going to happen? You're going to stick a giant that you could have used on Thursday when you
pull
needed
on
it. You could pull on them, but what else could happen?
Right.
You could pull on them, and what are you going to do then? Go to the spot, right?
Yep.
Okay. You could go there, stick a big one, burn them.
Right.
Another angler could see you happen. Now you get competition,
Yeah.
but you're still going to go to that spot.
Yeah, you're going to go there
You could
either
go
way.
there. You could go there and not catch one, and now
then-
your heart's broken.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, my stuff's falling apart.
Yep.
But guess what? You're still going to do on Thursday. You're going to go there. So why go there?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep,
Go look
yep.
for a little something else. So there's that. The looking at like the information as far as online and stuff and doing your research and stuff. I love the way you look at it. That's something I've been trying to get a lot better with. Google Earth, using Mind Knows. You know, I think they got like the information part right for bass and stuff like that. And I found it never worked for me. I definitely tried when it was legal and stuff like that to talk to people and get stuff. But I just find it difficult sometimes to catch. You can tell me the best spot on the lake.
I can catch no
Now,
one's
again,
fish.
it goes
Yeah.
back to my thing of fish with as many people as you can. Now, if you're going to teach me how to fish the horseshoe chain, and I'm going to go out with you, and we're going to learn together, well, that's going to make me a better angler.
Oh, for sure. You're learning
But if
how
you
they
just
fish.
tell me to go to X, Y, Z and do this, this, and this,
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to catch a damn thing. And not only that, is I'm going to spend half a practice chasing somebody else's nose when I should just be using mine.
Bingo.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And getting on my bite and stuff like that, and figuring that deal out. And so I kind of look at that the same way when I'm looking online. I like to know. I do look at past stuff more for, like, is there I'll do enough research. One, mainly, and see, here's the other thing. I don't towards the end of the year. When they're small venues, and I just kind of feel like I got that. I just got to learn the lake well enough and do my thing, and I'll be okay. And then I'm guiding, and I'm just busy fishing every day, right? Like dying right now to go fishing. But right now I'm at home, and I really don't have nothing to do besides bass fish or look about bass fish. So I tend to do a little bit more research towards the start of the year, watching YouTube, working out a little bit, watching stuff. So what I really want to know is if there is a common bait that just keeps coming up year after year after year after year. Is there a common bait that I need to know? Like a 6XD on Kentucky Lake. It's caught a lot, paid a lot of money.
Big time.
You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Okay. So once I figure out that, I would kind of want to look at, and then, some of the live stuff, mostly for the terrain and looking like at the stuff that they're fishing and what it looks like there.
That makes sense.
To get a little bit of an idea of what I'm fishing, and then the weights. I want to know what kind of weights.
That makes sense.
What do I need?
Right.
So that I've definitely had tournaments where I've laid off fish and then came in and went, oh my God, why did I do that? And then didn't catch them on day 2 good enough, or vice versa, or hunkered down and really caught their ass on day 2.
Yeah.
So you have stuff, but to know the weights, what kind of caliber of fish do I need to be catching in practice?
Right.
As far as the spots, dude, I know people. Like, if you look at me, granted, I fish at Mille Lacs a lot, but I never black out photos behind me.
No, you don't.
I'm pretty much
it's pretty open.
Well,
lake.
Mille Lacs, but anywhere. When I was a Minnetonka rat, I never
Right.
did either. You know what I mean? Like, and trust me, I've know people that can look at a photo.
Oh, it's insane. I can't.
It is freaking. It is,
I can't.
Dude, you could probably make money online.
Yeah.
Telling people, exposing spots
Yeah,
for
I
them,
don't-
because I'm terrible at it.
I'm
You could be
horrible.
sitting in front of my damn house if I lived on the lake,
Yeah.
and I don't think I would figure it out where you're at. But my mind's just also not like trying to necessarily
Yeah.
figure it
Yeah,
out,
yeah,
I
yeah.
guess. But like, I just don't. But man, there are people I know that can like watch a live and be like, boom, 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 and they don't even know the lake that well. They
On
can,
live?
they can Google Earth it and like figure out like, oh, look at there's a windmill back here, and
Holy
find the
smokes.
windmill, and the next thing you know, they're like, that's the spot. But here's the deal. Gussie just kind of did it, right? Backed it up. Same spot
Did.
to that. But generally, that shit doesn't fly.
Right.
Generally
Well,
doesn't work.
Seth mentioned that. Like
did he?
Yeah, on the pot. Like this was before the classic. He's
Okay.
like, yeah, I don't do research before tournaments. How many people do you think are going to pull up on that bridge Gussie caught him on? First day of practice.
I'm sure he was running them off like cockroaches.
like
right over there for
and
sure.
he backed it up,
Oh yeah, no, he
Yeah.
did. And
and I'm sure
good
a
for
bunch,
him. I mean, what a dream come true, right? He's
Yeah.
literally doing like that technique that he does is something that I've been in his ear for I can remember him doing that at a Texas lake way back in the FLW.
Really?
That we both had a good tournament on, and he kind of told me that way back when. And talk about a dude that does everything right. You know what I mean? Like he's just a good dude like that. So when he tells you something, it's legit and it's honest and all that. You're like, so I've been trying to learn it. I mean, Oahe, different places, largemouth, everything. I'm kind of like want to be his apprentice. I've been like I'm on him all the time about this and like, will this work? Will this work? Will this work? You know, and like, when do you use it here for a couple of years now? So then to see him go off on a classic in his element,
right,
fishing smallies, from Canada, you know, and showing them boys down in Tennessee a little different way to do it, but then to do it twice, it's kind of it is, and I didn't think it would hold up. I've never been there, so I don't know nothing about the lake really and all that, but I didn't think that would hold up. Now I did think maybe Gussie could find and duplicate that around the lake. Yeah. Which I think maybe he did just a little.
Seems like
just
he did
a little bit.
bit.
You know, when I talked to him, it seemed like he had like a couple others that he
2-3
he
areas,
did do that
4
on.
areas.
But generally, if you're looking, you know, everybody knows that.
Right.
Everybody and there's guys that are way better at looking and getting research and stuff like that. The legal way. Yep. That are just better. I wasn't very good in school either, so I'm just not that good at studying. You know what I mean? So
school's no fun.
Biggest thing too is I'm going to show up to a lake, and if there's one thing I can teach anybody, preconceived notions will destroy you in this game. It just will. You have to have an open mind.
Yep.
But
I've learned that.
So that's instinctual, but it can also be taught, and you can also teach yourself to be a little bit freer, and that's just by having success. You know, rolling around, having success, doing that. And I can think of some. It's a scary thought because I can think of many tournaments where I just, this crap ain't working, dude. I got to do something different. I just completely left it. I've had times where I've just went practicing. Yeah, you know what I mean. Yep. And just went practicing. Now this ain't hole jumping or nothing. This is just going practicing, finding a strip with nobody there. Yep. And going fishing, and then you catch them.
That's cool.
And that's awesome.
Yep.
But it's hard to do. And then you're like, it's scary that you have to do that maybe the next day or whatever. You know, you just got to do that. But
gives you confidence to do it again.
100%. Yeah. And it's the instinct. And guess what? We generally always catch them in practice.
Yeah, we do.
So when you can get that through your brain, that when you're being a fox, you're running around being instinctual looking for a chipmunk. You're trusting your gut. You're being instinctual. You're giving what the lake is giving you today.
Being a chipmunk. I like that.
Mille Lacs is be the fox.
Don't be chipmunk. Being the fox.
Be the fox looking for the chipmunk.
Yeah, be the fox.
But when you use it instinctually, given the woods are giving him what he's got to offer, he's got to find a chipmunk slipping. Oh, yeah. I got to take what the lake's giving me today. Don't force it. I've tried to force it too many times. Force what I thought. Sure. I can remember times at Mille Lacs. I can remember me and Ryan Brandt. Dude, I'll never forget this day. We're on the west side of the lake. This is before I was guiding up there. I was living on Lake Minnetonka, or not on Lake Minnetonka, Lake Minnetonka neighborhood. And I went up there with Ryan Brandt, and he was my team tournament partner for him, Corey, and Paul Coffey.
Great fisherman.
You know, the Denny's and stuff like that. And we went up there, and dude, we had a time, and they were coming in. Like, there's a couple, we found a couple on beds. And Ryan, I told you back, so kind of taught me how to bed fish in the first place. And like I said, now, I mean, I'll see them bastards in 15 feet. Like I got psycho eyes for them now. You know what I mean? Like you put a zebra mussel in the wrong spot, dude. I'm gonna see it. But he was kind of the one that taught me all that. And so we're running around and we're looking, and all of a sudden we're sitting there power pull down catching them, and they're just coming in by the. I still haven't seen it like this before. They're just like they come in from the deeper water, like right off the edge, come up on the reef, and then just go off, and they dust off a spot before you got done with this. Then he's sitting there ready to go.
Oh my gosh!
So you're like, and we're just sitting there catching them, and a lot of them are like early males, you know, 3-pounders, 4-pounders, and this is a little bit early. It's probably right before Seth. Yep. A year or two before that. Right. When the lake was still, you know, they're pretty green.
You found the brothel.
But again, preconceived notions. So I get down home, I call my buddy Chris Campbell, and I'm like, Bud, you want a smallie trip, dude?
Dream Smasher, right?
No, Chris Campbell is a buddy.
Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, Chris is a buddy of mine for a long time, and we've been bass fishing. Me, one of my best friends. And so I hit him up, and I'm like, dude, you want to? You know, I think I'm the man. Yeah, I'm the man. Yeah, you know, like this is, dude. I got this dial.
Automatic.
get your boat, pick me up, we'll take your boat. You know, I know right where to go.
Right.
And we get up there, and there's 4-footers blowing in there, and it's chocolate milk. We need to catch a bass. I was so damn determined because I'm like, they were here by the hundreds.
Yeah.
There's no way we can't.
We just need to cast around.
We
Right.
obviously couldn't see nothing, but we're so dragging stuff around, and
Yep.
we just never got a bite. We blanked. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so I was just like, man, preconceived notions really kind of suck. You
They
know?
do.
So that's my biggest thing, long story to get there, but that's just kind of, you just learn that, man, if I go in thinking this is how this is going to happen,
Yep.
I'm probably not going to win the tournament. Will I sneak a check? Maybe.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
But, you know, I'm going to look snaky on
So
somebody
true.
else's fishing spot, poking around on it, that, you know,
Sure.
stuff like that.
Sure.
When instead, I just rather, to win tournaments, I think you just have to think outside the box. Rarely is it done the same every tournament.
Right.
It's usually done in a different spot, in an ignored area.
Yep.
How many times do we hear locals say stuff like, I had never in a million years would have said so-and-so could have won off that spot.
Right.
But it's different when you're dealing with that.
Attention all smallmouth anglers. Have you thrown the marabou jig? Have you thrown the hair jig? Well, if you have, you're going to want to listen right now. This podcast is brought to you by Veselka Fishing and Customs, a custom rod shop based out of Minnesota, and he has developed the answer, folks. What if I told you you could throw that marabou jig 30 to 50% further than you're casting it right now? Well, Dane, Mr. Veselka himself, has developed the answer. It's a custom 8-foot hair jig rod developed on a steelhead fly blank. He's put custom fly guides on this, so you're really going to be able to outcast the competition, catch more smallmouth. They aren't going to see you. What more do you need? Here's what I need you to do right now. Visit veselkafishing.com. That's VOCELKA fishing.com. This is the 8-foot hair jig rod, but this guy can build you anything you want. If you can dream it, he can do it. Are you ready to reel in your next home purchase or refinance? Supreme Lending's Dream Team can help guide you through the entire mortgage process, from pre-qualification to closing. They have a wide variety of home loan programs in their tackle box, including down payment assistance and first-time homebuyer options. Just ask me. I trusted Aaron Dagas, a bass fisherman just like you and me, and Supreme Lending's Dream Team to help finance my first home. Contact Aaron Dagas and the Dream Team today by scanning the QR code or giving them a call at 763-326-0677. That's 763-326-0677. Did I catch a 7 in there? Or visit their website, aarondages.supremelending.com. That's AARONDAEGES.supremelending.com.
Many anglers, 4-day derbies, stuff like that. Yeah, no, you can't win a day derby. Winning a day derby, you can get lucky
Yep.
and be the man that
Yep.
day.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And you're good. Great. Good. You
Right.
cracked 22 pounds today on a lake.
Yeah.
I can remember doing it on North South Central. Thought I was a
Yeah.
damn man. And then got my butt kicked in the next tournament. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it's just like,
No. Yep.
but when you need to do that, you know, it's a team tournament, one day, or when you're one guy, it's got to do it. One guy, gal, whatever, I should say.
Well,
and,
one
and
guy's-
you go 4 days, you got to do it.
4 days.
4 days in a row. Rarely do you ever see them do the same thing for 4 days in a row.
That's,
And they generally did something different to start and then
Right.
still had to make a maneuver at some point
Right.
to get the job done.
that to me is the difference between, you know, kind of where we started on this.
Yeah.
The difference between your weekend angler and being a Bassmaster Elite Series Pro is the derby's 4 days long.
Oh, yeah.
And for your weekend derby, you probably didn't even practice 4 days or whatever, you know. And
Which, if you did, you probably went too long. That's another thing you can learn.
totally.
Too long of practices will kill you.
Too much
you
will
catch
burn
them right
you.
away, and then again, you're going to make your own preconceived notion.
Bingo.
So now you showed up there a week in advance, and you were awesome the week before. Everything definitely changes in a week.
I
And
was going to ask you about that.
Your nose goes in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
You know? So that's a big thing. I just try to leave practice, and I've learned that from other anglers that have had success with it. You know, that, again, if somebody has something you want, ask them how they got it. Don't try to take nothing from them. Don't try to be envious of them.
Yep.
Your time will come.
Right.
Everybody, you know, more that can get it, the better.
Yep.
Good for you. but ask somebody, and generally they're proud of what they've done. They'll teach you. You know, they'll tell you. They're
Yep.
You know what I mean? They're appreciate the fact that you're giving them respect for their hard work.
Absolutely.
Too many people want to say, oh, if I didn't have a job and I didn't have this, and if I had all day to fish, I'd do it too. Well, you're gonna already come off on somebody as like, but if you're seriously like, you know, not envious but proud of their work ethic enough to make it something that you want to learn, usually that's taken as a pretty good thing. You know, and you naturally want to turn around and help somebody then, or teach somebody something, and
it is surprising.
So you can learn that kind of stuff. You know, you can be taught that.
Right. Well, a lot of people are too scared to ask, and I was fortunate to have, you know, really supportive parents. My dad, you know, kind of instilled it in me at a young age that most people are too scared to ask. And
I think that's we're saying the same thing in a different way.
You'd be surprised. Like he would tell me that. You'd be surprised how many people are willing to help. Like they see, you know, and quick story. So an example of this would be, I wanted to start a business out of college. And so I called this guy named Mark Lasik. He's the founder of Frequent Flyer Miles.
Oh, I thought you were going to say LASIK surgery.
No.
But Frequent Flyer Miles probably got more money anyway, so go ahead.
And a big marketing agency, big time dude, right? And I was like, you know, just looking for a mentor. Yep. And I call this guy up, and, you know, he doesn't answer. I leave him a message. He calls me back, though. I'm like, holy smokes. And he's like, you know, I'd love to just meet with you for 30 minutes. It was my cook moment. It was my cook email moment or whatever.
Yep, I like it.
And he's like, yeah, no, let's meet for an hour downtown next Tuesday. Work for you? Yeah, sure. He's like, cool. Meet me at my office. You know, blah, blah, blah. Oh, shoots me the address. And, you know, I go downtown. In downtown Minneapolis, it's hard to meet a guy at an office. I was like running almost gonna be late because I was swerving, and his office was in the middle of this skyscraper building.
Hard. Figure how you're gonna
and I was like, this isn't like driving to somebody's driveway office or parking lot. Like, there's nowhere to park
here today.
Right. Yeah. So I call him. I'm like, and he's not answering. I'm like, dang, I missed this meeting or whatever. And he calls me. I'm like at the street corner in downtown Minneapolis. I found a parking ramp. He calls me back. He's like, Aaron. I was like, hey, Mark, I'm running late. I couldn't figure out how to park, and I'm trying to find your office. He's like, no worries. I had a meeting run late. I'm driving right now. What street corner are you at? And I was like, corner of Hennepin and blah, 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 whatever the heck. He's like, perfect. I'll pick you up. So I'm just standing at the street corner in downtown Minneapolis, and this Mercedes pulls up and rolls down the window. He's, Aaron? It's like, yeah. He's like, get in. I get in. This guy looks like Rod Stewart. He's got like a big jacket on. He's got Guns N' Roses just blaring. I'm like, dude, this guy's cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
Like, dang, right? And, you know, I got to talk with this guy for, you know, a good hour up in his office. And just, I guess, like most people are too scared to ask. Like, this is a guy who's like, everybody's too scared to ask.
Right.
Yeah. And I think you'd be surprised how much you separate yourself by being the only person who's willing to ask. I bet I was probably the only 21-year-old kid that would call him out of the blue to ask to meet with him. So, like, to him, I wasn't just this guy hitting him up. I was, you know, I was unique because I was willing to ask, right? And
you probably reminded him of you of him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's like when you look at mentors, and, you know, for these people who are growing up in the sport, mentors are key. And you know, I'll never forget what I learned in that hour conversation with him. He gave me a book and he signed it. It's the only like number one advice he gave me. The book was called Steal Like an Artist. And he's a very philosophical kind of creative guy, like kind of just cool dude that way. And Steal Like an Artist, it's basically like nothing is made from pure originality, right? We all have influences, right? Every artist, like, you know, Taylor Swift wasn't just born and wrote music, right? She had to listen to music and figure out like what she liked, like, and it's not like she's the only first person to play a G chord or a C chord, or you know what I mean?
Where you're going with this?
So like, but yet you take all these influences that, you know, people you fished with per se, right? And you develop a style, or you develop something that people don't think you stole it, right? That's an artist. People don't like, when you do something that's so unique and creative, like it doesn't look like you stole it, yet everything that created that was influenced by other things that have already been made.
That's awesome.
And anyway, that's my little tangent. But to me, there's a lot to be taken away with what you've said about fishing and being willing to ask, being willing to allow yourself to be open to the world around you and be influenced by things you like and things that motivate you. And
no, 100%. I mean, not being afraid to ask is something that I'm hoping the younger generations aren't losing the ability, because you can't show somebody your eagerness, your sincerity. You can't show somebody that via text all the time, or an email or a direct message or something.
Right.
And then knowing what to ask when you do get that opportunity, right? Like, I've always been, we talked about this a little bit before. I owe a lot of my success today of getting here. I was never afraid to fail. I'm still not. I was a bartender, and I was a really, really good one.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'll just go back and bartend.
Right.
And I'll guide, and I'm a really, really good guide.
You're a good guy.
So I'm just not afraid. I'm just not afraid to take a chance and all that. And a lot of that came from the hospitality industry right away, working for Marriott.
Sure.
Learning how to talk to people, learning how to read people.
Right.
And then ask the right questions when you do get that opportunity where they're actually giving you a one-on-one or whatever, to not come off like an ass, and at the same time not come off like you're just wanting something from somebody that's successful, that you're truly trying to learn. And so I hope the younger generation that listens to this stuff, one, that's something you got to really consider. And then two, ask the right questions. I could never in a million years ever imagined asking Dean Capra or Shane Raveling or Brad Leiferman for their fishing spots.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a question I get today on direct message.
Do you
almost
really?
Daily.
Oh, my gosh.
On a bad level. And
That's
that's something
sad.
I just never, ever, ever, ever in a million years
would have asked somebody.
Would have ever even thought to ask something like that. How do I throw a jig worm? How do I throw a wiggle wart?
Much better question.
Those might be questions.
Yep.
Brad, why were you throwing a spinnerbait?
Right.
When I remember, I'll never forget it. He did well in that tournament. Brad Leiferman. I was pitching a jig around. He's throwing a spinnerbait. I'm like, who throws spinnerbaits on Lake Minnetonka?
Okay.
Brad Leiferman's rolling down.
I thought you were talking something different.
He's rolling down, catching them in front of me. That's a cool question.
Great question.
Where do you throw that? When do you, stuff like that,
Yep.
or just that ain't gonna get a response that you're gonna want. You know what I mean? You're not. Nobody's gonna just. That's like me was with. Just ask somebody for $100. You know what I mean? Like, gonna give you a fishing spot.
Right.
And so it's that kind of stuff, to be able to have that, and that's where this all circles back, where I feel like I came in at a right time, where I still had to have you still have to have that person to person ability. To sell, to talk.
For
I
sure.
mean, really, you're just selling yourself. Again, whether you're selling a Lowrance, you're selling yourself. You got to, and at the same time, the social media side and that. So I hope this young generation continues that, because it's not going to be that when you asked him that or whatever, you know what I mean? You had an opportunity.
Right.
Where if you're just typing something out and sending it, the only real opportunity you're giving somebody is to not like, or take it in a bad way, or take it in a way that you didn't, maybe never even wanted to.
It's a good point.
Type deal. So that's one thing that I think, a lot of people too could help at is asking, like you said, asking the right people. It's funny, not funny, it's awesome you remember that story. And I can think of numerous ones very similar, where it's just the right person at the right time, teaches you something, and if you're willing to learn and listen, don't always be the guy that's got to prove everything. And I've learned that too, in learning that. You know what I mean? Like, you don't always have to show somebody you're worthy of their conversation. Shut up and listen. Yeah. And I've definitely blown a conversation attempt or two, trying to, not necessarily toot my own horn, but trying to, even just, you know what I mean? Just like, you're trying to say, no, I'm serious, but you overdo it too. At the same time, like, if my intentions are right, but you come off like you're not. So but they're not. No, we can put that on record. They are not afraid to blast your DM with what's wild. where can I win this tournament here? Or a high school dad. Whew.
Oh, them high school. Oh my! It reminds me
Savage.
of high school hockey.
Oh,
like,
worse.
Kind of, but worse. I can see
I played
that.
high school hockey my whole life, and I get it. And I can see like the dads. It was all a big competition. Kids better and
Right,
all this.
right.
Could you imagine being a coach? I was
Oh.
actually gave me thick skin today. It probably helped me. I was a hockey referee. I got
Oh,
my
you were?
ass chewed by Showcase hockey. You remember Showcase
Oh, yeah.
hockey?
Oh, yeah.
Dude. I played it and I reffed it, so I got my ear blasted and like all over the place, all over the state and stuff like that by high school dads and stuff. You definitely get it. I get it, man. They're living through their kid and all that stuff and having a time. And that's what's so cool about it.
Yeah.
That's what's so cool about it. That wasn't there when I
Right.
was there. Man, these kids are coming out turnkey.
Oh yeah.
They're ready to rock and roll. They're
Right.
understanding the marketing. They're good fishermen. They're
Yep.
they're networking real well and in positive ways where
Right.
they're learning to get better with different people. So their learning curve, if all of a sudden you college and high school, all of a sudden you know guys down at Lake Hartwell.
Right.
Now, would their waypoints have helped? Maybe, maybe not. But the fact that you know them and you can learn
Right.
stuff the right way and you can teach them how to be a smallmouth fisherman in Minnesota,
Totally.
it just makes a better angler. And I think that's what we're seeing today. We're seeing in every sport, really, right? We're
I
seeing
would agree.
dominance.
Yep.
We're seeing it just keep getting better and better and better.
And we were talking about this with Dane and my buddy Dane and Hayden. Like, there's so many more young fishermen now. Like that. Like when we were getting into it, there was like there wasn't enough people getting into it as much as there was people into it. Like to learn like the etiquette, the not the laws of fishing, but the ethics of fishing, like those loose
that's
rules,
awesome.
those
Yeah.
loose
Learn
gray
it- learn
rules.
it all,
I'm very blessed I think that there wasn't enough of me when I was coming up that I got to get in the boat with the right people and learn that. But with these kids now, there's not enough of us to teach them the right. You know, this is how you should ask for stuff. This is how
There isn't, or there is.
there isn't.
See, I
Like,
go ahead.
you wouldn't have all these kids poaching spots if there was
Right.
more
Well,
ethics
there
taught,
a lot
and
of that's
it's almost like
it's probably
maybe
their
it's
damn
greed.
dad, right?
Right, for sure.
But
Yeah.
no, I mean, at the end of the day, you're young, right? So I'm saying, I mean, you're
I'm going on 30. I'm
you're
feeling
still
old,
you're still
but
young,
yeah,
but
that's good.
what I'm saying is that when you're a kid, a high school kid, like I'm not blasting a high school kid right now. I'm just
No, yeah,
teaching that there's a lot better ways to approach somebody
I agree.
and learn. I'm probably more apt. I've tried to do my best to give back to bass fishing for everything that I've gotten,
Yeah.
and teach those ones, because that was the frustrating part for me coming up, was trying to find legitimate information,
Dude,
not
totally.
trying to read just what some magazine
Right.
pro was telling me to do. No, magazine pro,
Sure.
pro was legit, but who was writing the article and what they were saying, you
Right.
know, that flew. But to learn the right way, and man, so happy that there wasn't video and Instagram when I was only 16, 17. I would have asked some dumb questions,
Yeah,
and,
that's
and,
fair.
and done things wrong for
Sure.
sure. You're going to do it.
Learn from your mistakes, right?
Right, you learn from it and stuff, but there's just a way that you can succeed better by not wanting nothing more than respecting the knowledge that the person has to
Right.
offer you. That could be on growing gardens, whatever it is, man, whatever it is that you're into. I love agates, collecting agates,
Right.
dude. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
you
Like
do.
that can
That's
be,
cool.
That's a kind of a new thing for me, but I like
I
collecting
think it's cool.
rocks, whether
Yeah.
it's on my Lowrance or I'm looking
Yeah,
at them with my
yeah.
eyes. I like collecting them.
I like it.
But yeah, you know, for that, and so I'm definitely not putting them on blast. Like I said, I'm so glad that wasn't there. But at the same time, you know, you look locally. We had Jim.
Yeah.
We had Jim Moynia. You know, that's who we. It was really an intangible thing to think of how you could get to the Bassmaster Elite Series if you were a kid from Minnesota.
Yeah.
It was just, I want to do this, but how do we do it? And in
Right.
that aspect, I think they got it way better now.
For sure, dude.
Because
That's a good point.
there's been enough
Yeah.
anglers here locally that you can attach and relate to, no
Right.
matter what different styles of angle, and just successful. Not even there, like I said, the Andy Young making a classic,
Yep.
Brent Hames making a classic. You know, Brent Hames was critical
Yeah.
to my success.
Brian Haynes. is a good
Andy
dude.
has been,
Yeah.
Seth has been, and then of course Severson,
Jimmy,
Dean, just any of them guys that I've gotten to know a little bit over the years. Figgy, a phenomenal fisherman. And of course I'm keeping up with them now, like Noah and all. I'm like, my God, dude, we're pumping out bass fishermen. And I should stop saying names because then you end up leaving somebody out. And there's so many talented damn fishermen here that I fished with, team partners and stuff like that, that I just don't ever think, and conversations I've had. Yeah. I was looked at like a dreamer. I really was when I first saw you think you're going to be a Bassmaster Elite Series Pro?
Yeah.
Dougie, come on, bud. You know what I mean? Like that, but it's just what I wanted. You know what I mean? That was there, but now that's not such a pipe dream no more.
No.
Don't get me wrong.
Josh is on the Elite Series
top
now.
100. It's top 100, but for people from around here to look at and see guys that are doing it or having success on the FLW or the Pro Bass Tour or whatever it is, like that's one thing too that's kind of happened here. Now we're watching bass fishing blow up, and really, if you're asking me, dude, we got a lot of really good fishermen.
We do.
Not just Minnesota. You got the Wisconsin guys out there. Bob Downey, which Minnesota too, but Pat I know he's got ties between the two. Pat
won everything in Wisconsin before
Pat
he left.
Double qualified to get in his first year. I've been at it for 10 years.
Dude,
you know what I'm saying?
The state of Wisconsin cheered tears of joy that they didn't have to fish against Pat Schlapper anymore.
Right,
he
to
won
get
everything.
that dude. When he started coming over here to Minnesota, I remember looking at he started coming to Mille Lacs and Goal and stuff, and I remember looking at like, get on your side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But no, that's just that's it. But he ain't afraid to sign up for a tournament and take your money still.
Oh yeah, it's a
and
fact.
that's something too. I really hope. Sometimes you get that, oh, dude fished on the Elite Series. Why is he fishing these tournaments? You want to fish against people better than you. Since hockey, you always want to make the better team, because even if you were a B hockey player but you snuck into the A team, all of a sudden you become a perennial A player because you're playing against that caliber all the time. If you play against the next caliber but you're higher down, you're going to play down to that. So like I get it. Everyone wants to make an excuse when they get their butt kicked or something like that, but who's got the most pressure? The elite angler when he doesn't get a check.
That's just it.
Or you coming in to fish.
But I'd much rather be the guy fishing against the elite angler than be the elite angler fishing the
and
local
I get money
tournament,
and all that kind of stuff and time and all that. It is what it is. But yeah, I think you learn more watching people succeed. Yeah, and you can find common ground. If you look at just the elites and you look at Bob, look at Seth, look at Austin, look at myself, and you can relate to one of us. One of us did it the way that you're going to have to do it, and then you're going to be a variant of that and find your own path there, if that's the goal. Or maybe you want to go fish the other side and do that, or nothing. You know what I mean? Maybe you just want to be better on Lake Minnetonka and be one of the best Minnesota anglers that have ever fished, and that's all cool. But
that's what you want to make.
We're really lucky now to have that information highway to kind of have access, because I don't think we would have all got there if we didn't have that. And then found that success, and we needed each other. We needed Jim to do what Jim was doing.
Oh, Moynihan's a pioneer,
and I can for sure. And then I can remember, Dean having big tournaments out of state. I can remember Leiferman having big tournaments out of state. Severson having big tournaments out of state. Brian Brown. I mean, it goes back to a ways back of guys succeeding out of state. Right. And then it's like, oh, I can do that. Oh, I can do that. And you just kind of keep going, and then you keep finding these different things. Sure. And now, dude, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and now Canada. Obviously Canada. Those dudes are all good up there that are fishing. Right. So I just think we're pumping out really, really good, versatile fishermen.
I agree with
from
that.
Up here, well-rounded anglers that are represent businesses well. And catch them when the puck drops.
When the puck drops.
Yeah, no doubt.
You been watching The Wild?
Oh, dude, all the time.
I'm diehard. Eck got injured
last night.
Yeah.
Oh,
I broke my heart.
I watched the start, and then I helped Willard move, and I missed it. Is he hurt?
They're not saying yet, or I haven't seen. They wouldn't say when I looked. I love the way
he plays hockey.
Dude.
And that line's been so good. I was waiting for Kaprizov to come back.
I know.
Line 1 would be on fire. Line 2 would be on fire. Yeah. Line 3 just scores goals. Yeah. Line 4 is good.
Yeah, I told my dad today, I was like, damn, the whole team, half the team could have got injured if we could keep Eck. He's such a... Erickson Eck is such a...
He never talks trash, and they punch him in the face all the time.
He just gets hit all day.
He just stares at you like this, and then they crack him in the face, and then he smiles a little bit and punches back. He's nasty in front of the net.
Dude,
and
he's
then when you got somebody
mean.
like Boldy and
Tough.
that Johansson, whatever we say his last name, that was a smooth
Johansson.
move because that guy can set up.
Oh, I couldn't
He's
believe
one
it.
of the best passers I've seen.
I
in a
didn't see
while.
that coming. Like there, I was like, oh, Johansson, okay, interesting. And then Boldy's points just start going through the roof, and you watch Johansson's speed going into the zone. You got Eck in front of the net, who plays the best two-way game out of any of them, and it's like we're short on centers. Like if we're lacking at centers. So the debate now is whether they're going to call Rossi up or have Steele jump in that spot.
Steele was playing good.
He was.
I mean,
He's streaky.
Rossi, obviously, I mean, everybody wants to see it happen. And hopefully what happens there is what happened to Boldy. You know, I mean, I think we all went, oh, man, Kaprizov's done. We're probably going to miss the playoffs
We're
now.
fucked again.
And then at the same time, it was, Boldy had a year and a half under his belt. Mm-hmm. And now
sophomore slump
it was
is what we thought.
It was time to just – and he had a good first year.
He had good
no doubt. But then again, he had
Fiala.
Yeah. So again, it just shows the talent around you is going to always make you better, like what we were saying before.
Yep.
And then Johansson is like as Matt Zuccarello to Kaprizov.
I agree.
So I thought
Yeah.
Kaprizov being down, we might miss the playoffs now.
Yeah.
To Boldy coming out of his shell.
Yeah.
And becoming now another superstar on the team.
Yep.
And then when you're just playing with that, I almost said fishing with that kind of confidence.
Yeah.
When you're playing with that kind of confidence, you're going to make everyone else around you better too. And so the teams come up. But yeah, I did not hear about Eck. I watched a little bit of the first half. We were losing like 1-0. Then I go help Willard.
I missed the
I
whole
saw
game,
we
but-
lost 4-1, but I did not see that Eck. They haven't said how long he's out.
Nope. Could be day to day or the season. Sounds like lower body. So
He had one of those last year or something like that.
yeah, I forget how many games he missed.
He didn't miss that many. Like 4
Hopefully.
or 5. What do they got left? 4?
I mean, I can't
4 or
believe
5?
the way he's been getting beat up in front of the net. I can't believe he made it this far. But I'll be curious to Rossi. Like he didn't really blossom when they gave him the big shot here at the beginning of the season. So I'll be curious if
They did kind of give him that shot. What line did they put him on to start
they
the
didn't
season?
put him on a good line.
See, that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's kind of been their problem with him. My understanding this whole time is, he's a 1 or 2 guy,
Yeah,
and
he's not big.
It's worse to put him on like a line 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Because that's not the position he's going to excel at.
No.
That's not the style of hockey he's going to be playing. So
Yep.
hopefully I would like to see it. Steele plays great hockey. I'd like to see Rossi get the spot and come out of his
That'd
shell.
be cool.
Maybe a little chip on his shoulder never hurts nobody either. And
Right.
I know COVID was hard on him. He had some complications early that kept him
I gotcha.
back. He had like I forget what his deal was. Bad blood clots or something like that. Right.
yeah.
He was one of those real young angler, freaky
Gotcha.
COVID deal, and it costed him that first season. And I think they've said he's been slow to kind of recover fully from
Got
that
the jab.
over all the
Just kidding.
years. But no, he didn't. I think he was one of the first ones to get COVID.
Oh yeah.
And he just got it bad. He got it like one of those freaky deals that
Yeah.
he had some blood clots, so they had to send him back home. And for a while there, I remember reading they didn't think he was going to play in the NHL anymore.
Wow.
And so
I got
I'm
you.
rooting for him. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
absolutely.
It's another guy that you want to root for, and he's a big prospect for us. I'd like to
Right.
see him blossom, but
Well, Jonathan Taves' career's basically over because of COVID too.
is it? What was there?
It's bad complications from kind of blood clotty type stuff. I don't know the exact
Yeah, something
stuff,
that's just
but
freaky.
yeah, it is
Weird.
But I really thought we maybe make it past the first round of the playoffs until Eck got hurt. Now
Well,
I'm just like, ugh.
Again, we're only here because of goaltending at this point in time.
Holy
really,
smokes.
goaltending smoke. We're winning 3-1 games with 40 shots against our goaltenders. Gustafson's coming on huge, of course.
D's been
Fleury
playing
is,
good
is
too.
the man. Yeah, right. No
Like,
doubt.
We aren't letting like those slot chances in. Like we're keeping things to the
No, they
outside.
clear pucks. Yeah.
Yep.
They clear pucks. And
But-
and we're excelling when we need to.
But holy smokes, that Gussie pattern turned out pretty good, eh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Guy can stop a few pucks.
He really is good. He's
I'm hoping
really
we
good.
start him in the playoffs this
Yeah,
year. But
we got a real stud too in the farm league right now in Iowa.
Jasper Wellstead. Yeah.
So that's I kind of thought Fleury was there to teach him, but now it's starting to look like Fleury's a legend, and when he goes,
Oh, for
he
sure.
goes down the line. But then it looks like we could have
We got a good goalie.
Jesper and
Gussie.
Gustafson. Oh boy,
That looks good
Young.
too. Well, they say goalies take longer to develop than players, so like you can screw up a goalie's career by rushing them to the NHL.
Probably do that a little bit of everybody to some extent, mentally.
That's
for
what
sure.
they say.
But at the same time, a goaltender, that's I mean, I played hockey my whole life, year round,
Right.
and I love goalies for what they do, but I've never met a normal one. You know,
Oh, they're all weird as hell.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
who sits in the puck? I mean, just think about the principle. Okay, I'm going to sit here and you're going to fire that puck at 90 miles an hour, and I'm going to put my body in front of it.
Yeah,
You
I've
know?
never
And
met a
then
goalie.
to be like it's like a kicker in the NFL, right?
Sure.
Oh my god, like how I wouldn't.
Gary Anderson's a weird dude.
If
from
you
what I
kick
heard.
the field goal and you make it, then the quarterback gets all the credit. If you kick the field goal and you miss it, then you lose. Then
Right.
it's all because of you. You know.
Who was it? The wild. Remember Ilya Briskalov?
Oh yeah.
Solar system so
Yeah,
big.
yeah.
Like that guy was so weird.
No,
He's
that's
like obsessed with the
you
solar
have to
system.
be though, right? You got to be. You're in your own world back there,
For
man.
sure.
You're back there by yourself, and so much is on you. And
Yeah.
and truthfully, in the NHL, hockey as a total, the goaltender, a hot goaltender, can win
Can win games
straight up.
I mean, Fleury.
Straight up,
Yeah.
It can win Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
You know, just being nasty, but
Yeah.
yeah. Hockey's
You play hockey your whole life?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
said your brother played.
My brother's real good. Yeah, my brother was. We have different dads, so he's a little bigger than me. I'm just under 6 foot. He's like 6'2".
Gotcha.
Floating around 200 pounds. Real soft. He played like Yalmir Yager. He had real
Oh.
soft hands, but he had a wicked
Sure.
shot. He's stupid nasty in front of nets. He played some junior stuff. Actually, he took Shakopee, where we grew up, to their first and only. I don't think they've ever been back since.
Oh wow.
So to their only state tournament, they
Really?
he scored the first goal against Latino Grace out there.
Oh,
They had one of those
Credits
wicked
for them.
lines that was so good. They were like #1 line in Let's Play Hockey from
Sure.
like squirts all the way through to
Gotcha.
high school. But he was really good. But yeah, no, I played a lot of hockey. We're just a sports family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We
Yep.
golf, hockey, football.
Sure.
I never played baseball. It was a little boring just because it took forever for you to be up to do something or
I
you know,
gotcha.
to get the ball. So I still played hand-eye coordination. You got to have it if you're
For
going to
sure.
play any kind of sports
Yep.
to any kind of level. But yeah, sports are a big deal to me. Competition. That's why, fishing went from, just a thing that I really, really, really like to do to a profession because I was just never really satisfied.
Right.
Always trying to be a competitor and best myself,
Yeah.
be better.
Absolutely.
So
Well, hockey's a tough sport, and for all those women who don't date fishermen, that's good because I'm a hockey player.
yeah,
But
hockey players get chicks for sure.
my dad wanted me to be a hockey player.
You got
real
some
bad.
lettuce going. You got hockey lettuce.
Oh
for
yeah.
sure.
I figured I got to do it before I'm bald and gray.
Yeah,
You
oh,
know,
yeah.
so it's kind of like a
And if you're
pre-midlife
fishing,
crisis
man,
thing.
you can still let that rock
That's
and just
just
keep a
it.
hat on the top, and it's all good. Dude.
The old Tony Capper, baby.
yeah,
yeah,
you're good.
dude.
You're good. No doubt.
For sure. But hockey, to make it to the pros, it's kind of like fishing that way. Like, there's
No,
a
I'm
lot
guessing
of good
it's
hockey
even
players.
harder. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a, you gotta have a lot of God-given talent, and then you gotta have the work ethic, right? Because rarely does just God-given talent is that good enough to get in. So if you have both, you're gonna really dominate.
Right.
And then, but you're dealing with the whole wide world. And that's the thing, bass fishing. Yeah, we're global. But not really a lot of countries even have a bass. Hell, the only reason bass fishing is so big in the United States is because it's the most predominant
Right.
sport fish.
Yep.
Walleye could probably compete a little bit better if it was all across the country. Same with saltwater could be bigger if it was everywhere, not just on
Right.
the coast. So bass is just basically almost every state has
Yep.
a bass and they're sporty
Yep.
and stuff. But a lot of those other countries, I look at, guys like Carl Jocumsen, who I'm good friends with, man.
Yeah.
He left everything he knows in this world to go chase a fish that he never caught.
Right.
You
Well,
know
there's
what I
no
mean? It's like-
Czechoslovakian bass team. I mean, Australia has even.
Well,
they don't
probably
even have
slay-
largemouth,
They
do
probably
they?
slay carp over
Right.
there, probably like
Just
dialed
like
on
yeah,
carp.
for sure.
Li-
Yeah. Soaking corn all day,
So,
baby.
oh yeah, waiting for your corn on my active target to get down to them
Yeah,
and grab
yeah.
it. No, but that I know Japan's got some bass, obviously, but
For sure.
again, that's another thing. I like the Japanese.
Me too.
The tackle, everything. I've just
I'm
always
into
kind of
it.
been into all of that. I'm a fishing gear junkie
I'm
at the
me
end
too.
of the day.
Yeah.
But it seems like them dudes come over and you got like Talk and the new guy on there, and they're like assassins, like
Dude.
smallmouth assassins, just really good electronic stuff. But
Blows
then
my
you
mind.
also got like Ken Iobe and
Yep.
Kenta Kimura and stuff like that come over, and it's like they really shine on tough tournaments,
Yeah.
tough grinders, Arkansas River, James River.
Doing
Tough,
weird stuff
tough,
too.
Red River, real tough stuff. But to us, we're looking for 5 bites. It's a tough fishing place, so that gets into a lot of American anglers' heads.
Right.
We do better. I know I do better in Whackfest than I do in grinder tournaments. Low weight grinder tournaments catch 5. If you catch 5,
Right.
that's generally not my jam. And
Yep.
some guys excel at it, but it seems like some of those Japanese anglers come over. And that's still good fishing because they're taking the techniques that they know on highly, highly pressured waters in
pressure.
a really small country, really, when you consider comparatively to the United States.
Right.
And lakes and stuff, we got them all over the place. They only have, whatever they have. I can't put a number on it. I know
Probably
it's
like
nothing.
4.
It doesn't touch
And rivers.
nothing,
Yeah.
that we have here. So they have to learn to catch them there, and they come to a place like the Arkansas River or the Red River,
Right.
and they're like, "This is easy."
Only 200 bucks.
Yeah, all you
That's
need
it.
is 5-pound test or whatever. But they're also really one thing I've learned too from is of course you got the finesse stuff.
Yep.
I would have never even thought of 5-pound tests, and I still don't. Like, it's not my jam. But a lot of stuff that we throw today, especially smallmouth fishing, but really across the board, it's come from Japan.
Sure.
And we've kind of taken over here, Americanized it a little bit, switched it up and made it work.
Right.
Made it work over here, but they're also really good at reaction fishing. Make a fish bite,
Right.
and stuff like that. So that I just kind of find it, unique and
Yeah.
and it just goes to show no matter where you're from here, at home, whether it's Minnesota or Missouri or, Brandon Pollock's from Idaho,
Right. Yeah.
arguably the best angler on the planet right
He's
now,
unreal.
dude. And I
Yeah.
know they got a couple bass lakes out there, but
They're pretty good.
that's
from what I
trout
hear, too.
fishing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
it
trout
is, yeah.
fishing and elk hunting.
Right. Right.
So it goes to show that there are certain, that there really is no real excuses if you want something bad enough, man, you can go get it. Because I've watched one of my real good buddies in Carl come over and become a household name,
Unreal.
and had never caught a bass before.
Right.
And he came over here right around the time me and you were fishing together in the Silverado. So
I respect that.
yeah,
That's when
me too.
So he
Like,
came over a lot earlier than I thought.
Yeah, it might have been. I take that back. It was probably, I think because Carl fished. That's something that I do want to talk about, co-angler. But he, I think he came over and did some co-angler stuff before he went pro. So
Smart.
but he was fishing in those first couple tournaments that Seth and I
Sure.
had, in 2012. So I think he maybe started 10 or 11. So yeah, that was probably when was the Silverado tournament?
Last one would have been 10 or 11.
Okay,
probably.
so yeah, so
or
around
9, 10 or 11.
around there's when he started
Sure.
coming over and stuff like that. But literally start from nothing, and then so many of them come from other countries. Where do they go? L.A. or New York?
Right.
Like, you just assume the United States, right? I gotta go to L.A. or New York, and then they go there, and next thing you know, they're in Alabama.
Right.
So it's like, but
Well, when you say so, Japan, they're very known for their finesse stuff. I would say, like, if you're to ask, like, when you say like making fish bite, with reaction stuff, I think a lot of people when they think of Japan, they think of
finesse,
finesse, lighten the line, smaller bait,
Yep.
something weird, dice with hair on it, whatever the heck it is.
Yep.
I guess I know a little bit of the reaction stuff, like the OSP crankbaits. I've messed with some of them.
Oh,
and those
Vision
are damn
110.
good. Yep,
Any
Vision
of them,
110,
yeah.
Mega Bass.
Yep.
I suppose, yeah. Mega
Even the
Bass, Vision
rods,
110.
and reels.
Yep.
Whether you're on, G Loomis is an
Yep.
American company, but Shimano owns G Loomis, and Shimano, I've
make
gotten
some
to throw
bad
some of their rods,
Mhm.
and they got some like reaction stuff that I've like. A
X
little bit
Pride.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little
Yeah.
bit different actions for that kind of stuff. But there's two ways. Basically, it comes down to this. There's two ways to catch a bass. You're either going to trick a bass into biting that it's its food.
Yep.
Okay? You're going to trick it. Now, that can be a jig all the way down to a little tiny finesse thing or a 2-inch Cinco and 4-pound test trying to
They want to eat it.
get it so finessey that they're going to bite it. But either which way, you're tricking them into that is their food.
They want to eat it or they have to eat it, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Then the other way is by making them bite, by a reaction bait, causing a reaction strike.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, did all those years Kevin Van Dam dominated, did all those bass really think that 6XD, bright blue chartreuse 6XD, was a shad?
Right.
Or did it just spring in their face so quick? They don't have hands, they have a mouth. If I just grab this thing and pitch it to you and you didn't expect it, what would you do? Yep.
Probably try to catch it.
If you're a bass, what are you going to do? Open your mouth and
Suck
you
it in.
you catch trebles.
Yep.
And you make that fish bites. Out of reaction, you fight that fish.
Yep.
You get it in. You get the rest of the school all hopped up and heavy now, and then you can start throwing a jig in there or whatever. Maybe now they're chasing things down.
Yep.
You created the environment.
Absolutely.
You created the competition. You created that bite.
Yep.
So there's a couple different ways to go about getting a bite.
Yep.
So in that case, they do have that. They have the innovation, which I like.
Me too.
And I mean, 90% of it might not catch a bass, but the 10%'s a home run grand slam.
That's just
dude.
it.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
it's
When
just
you discover
something.
that little freaking cricket,
it's the
whatever
deal.
it is. Yep.
But if you're a collector still, it's cool. And
Oh,
the
yeah.
innovation spawns something else.
Absolutely.
They have the realisticness. They got the finesse because they got some clear water over there and big bass.
They do the big bait thing too.
Yeah,
over
because they
there.
got
Yeah.
some giants
Yeah.
and stuff like that and clear bass. And that's the other way. You can go super finesse or you can go really, really big
Right.
and trick a bass on the same type of fishery just because you're not just throwing the same jig or something every single day
Yeah.
at it. So just, the fan of the sport and watching, those anglers come out of Japan or anywhere. I've learned a lot of stuff from Carl in Australia
believe
from
it.
how he was catching, God, what do they call it?
What do they call those things?
Well, they have Barramundi that they catch.
Barramundi.
Yeah, they have those.
Barramundi.
I don't know if I've learned a ton off his Barramundi stuff besides just awesome stories.
They look like they freaking
But they got
tear.
like it's not Australian. They call it their Australian smallmouth. I forget what it's called, but it's really a cool fish. He's got a couple like replicas or whatever on his wall.
For
there.
Australia's sake, we'll call them the Dingo Dango.
Yeah, right.
All right. The
And-
Dingo
and
Dangos.
So he's brought some of
Yeah.
that, and they're kind of like smallmouths. And so he's brought
Cool.
that in spots. They're kind of like
Sure.
they're kind of more like a spot, a little smaller, but
Yep.
more like a spot bass. And
Gypsies.
He's exactly. He's brought that over and kind of taught some of that stuff. And it's like, oh, dude, that's
Yeah.
badass, or different stuff from there.
Right.
So I just think from the global spots where they're at, that they're bringing a different look to
Yeah.
what we're doing here,
For sure.
making us all better in the process. But definitely stealing a little money when they're over here too, because they're damn good, man. They're really, really good. And
Yeah.
how do you beat a dude that's not afraid to fail like that?
Totally.
And that's Carl.
The
That's the
mentality part
Japanese
even
side.
alone.
That's all of them, dude. How do you? And maybe even Minnesota has a small percentage of that
I think-
working because we're just new to the party.
Yeah.
We were kind of new to the party. We're
Yep.
changing a little bit of the way the game's played.
We ain't from around there.
No,
Nope.
we got a lot longer drives than everyone else. Maybe we have time to think about it or longer time to chew the side of our cheek when we have a bad tournament on the way back. Because like a 12-hour drive is a short one for me.
Yeah.
That's a short drive. That's a quick one.
That's 3 podcasts.
Just
you know?
sleep in, a couple cups of coffee,
Yeah.
and I'm there, dude.
I love
Most of
long
them are
drives.
16 to 28.
Oh, yeah.
something
Driving to
crazy.
Texas. Holy smokes.
Worst
Yeah.
thing I did, I love Mille Lacs. I love living in northern Minnesota. I wouldn't change it for nothing. But I lived in the city before. You get to Minnesota, you got an hour or two, and you're to Minneapolis at very worst, no matter
Sure.
which way you come in from. And now you get here, and you're like, you get to the city, I still got 2 hours. To go,
Right.
you know, it's
Oh,
like-
yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
extra deal, but
Mille Lacs is that extra. Yep. Extra
a little bit, and,
little bit.
and there's so much snow there still right now that it's like it's crazy.
Dude, the amount of snow we got this winter is nuts.
Well, it was record breaking. What are we gonna say? You know what I mean? It was
Oh,
a
yeah.
record breaking since like the 1800s or something. But
for a snowblower, and she got a workout.
yeah, I
Yeah.
got first year I've ever had one, and I
Okay,
got
I'm-
it before the snow flew, so that's what's
Good
even
man.
better. It ain't
Yeah.
like I just went there and picked one up because I'm like sick of it. No, I got one before. But Mille Lacs has been really low last couple of years, so it'd be nice to fill that up and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
streams and rivers and all that kind of stuff.
For sure.
That's the only thing we can say, right?
Well, I'm just worried. Like, my lake's kind of shallow, so I'm kind of worried about them all being belly up by the time it melts.
Yeah.
We'll see.
It's
But-
going to melt fast and quick, and it'll
Yep.
flush right through. But
Right. I have to pee, but I do have kind of a juicy question for you
I
before.
like juice questions. Cool.
One thing I've come to appreciate is reaction baits. Probably the last 4 years, really come to appreciate reaction baits and understanding. It's weird how you mentioned this with Japanese and Australian anglers coming over, how they'll kind of put their own twist on something and they'll do things their way. And a lot of times it'll work because the fish haven't seen it before or something. And then you talked about, KVD and ledge fishing. To me, something that is super overlooked in fishing is casting angle.
I think to the general fishing public it is, but not to a bass like a bass fisherman. No, like a good bass fisherman. No, that's almost all of it.
I agree with that.
It's a big deal.
And I guess for maybe somebody who's trying to get to that next level, the casting angle thing for me really, I feel like upped my game big time.
Yeah.
And maybe you sit and you're more experimental with it. That's how you figure it out, right? But at the level you're at, I guess, that's where I'm looking to learn a little bit. It's everything, but how do you spend you don't have time to cast at everything you see from multiple angles, right? So that's where you can sometimes figure out a casting angle, on a spot because nobody else has time to figure that out or what have you. I guess, what have you learned about casting angles and how it's maybe helped you or hurt you or
casting angles is going to be more. I mean, it's relative in shallow fishing.
Yep.
I mean, just because you can make that cast under that dock, should you have made that cast?
Sure.
Or should you have waited until you had more of a space to bring the bass out of that cast? Just because you can put it there.
There's that factor.
But similar. To a shallow water fisherman, I think it would be more about how quiet you are and how quiet and efficient your bait is at getting to the cover or whatever that you want to fish.
Sure.
To an offshore fisherman, angles of cast angles and stuff are going to be hugely important. And I always knew that. It's something I've always heard.
Yeah, right.
And if, of course I've seen it. Like if you're on a spot you're comfortable with, or you're catching them, you get hot, catch 14 pounds in the first hour on the spot. Now you're going to make it your spot. You're going to stay on it. You're going to start moving around. And all of a sudden, you kind of get to the other side at noon, and all of a sudden the sun's different. You whack them real quick because something changed or whatever, and that angle was big. But active target has taught me a ton. And
sure,
forward-facing sonar, there's so many ways a person can look at it. Do I look at fish and catch them? Yes, there's a hunting aspect now to it, how I approach a fishing spot, how everything. But I just said this in my Shield seminar that I did at St. Cloud last week. Active Target has taught me that all the thousands and thousands of dollars that I've put into bass fishing, and even more so the thousands of man hours that I've put in on the water and sunburns and all that stuff that I've done to myself over what I thought I knew and was learning, 80% of it was wrong. Was just wrong. Then what I created in my head of what the bass were doing on spots that I was even winning tournaments off of, I come to find out wasn't quite right.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like there's not just one or two, there's 12. Or how they respond to your pressure.
Sure.
How much they can really hear. How they know you're there within 100 feet sometimes, but you're using the school against them because there's multiple ones there.
There's competition.
And then you start learning. By doing that, you start making better decisions during the day, or more educated decisions, and you start tailoring your fishing around that. So I became a decent angler by just going fishing a lot and fishing and doing everything. Well, now I feel like I'm excelling faster because I'm learning something by looking.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you went elk hunting without a spotting scope, you're just going to approach elk a hell of a lot different. They're going to be in your face all of a sudden, or you're going to do things. But if you can spotting scope them from a far away, now you're going to approach that elk differently.
Sure.
But you're also going to go buy a whole bunch of elk that you could have got maybe bigger ones because you zoned in on one from a long ways away. So active forward sonar can do that stuff too. It can hurt you as bad as it can help you. 100% like a bedfish. You stick on a 5-pounder for too long, you never caught. You gave him 3 hours. You could have caught 2 5-pounders by just going fishing. So you have that. Well, you can do that with forward sonar and stuff too. But it's the gathering of information that you're learning and how they are responding to you. How, like, I can go out on Mille Lacs and throw 5 baits and tell you that day which one they're biting in a couple minutes, and then just roll with it. It might change
That's
later.
cool.
I can tell you by their attitude that they don't like that color today. I blasted 26 pounds off this yesterday. Now you're turning your nose up to it today. What the hell? Make a color switch and they act like they've never seen it.
Yeah.
Or what happens when you catch one? They know the game.
Right.
Once they know that. Now, if they're fired up, you can catch them. I remember it used to be 9 out of 10 times a bass went underneath my 2D, I'd catch them.
Yeah.
Now it's like 1 out of 20 that I can catch that actually goes underneath my 2D. Or when they come to the boat excited, now it's like they know, oh, the gig's up. You know, I caught 1 or 2, but where do they go from there? What do they do? And then when you figure that part of the puzzle out, now you took them away from their stop sign.
Right.
Okay, they're 20 years old, 15 years old, 20 years old fish.
Mm-hmm.
People have been doing that to them for 15, 20 years.
Right.
Where do they go? What do they do? And then how you can't get them to bite. You keep throwing at them, can't get them to bite. But all of a sudden you figure out the situation better because now you have eyes under there.
Right.
And you can just learn how to adapt to that. And then all of a sudden you change something and they act like they'd never even seen the bait before in their entire life. It never hits the bottom and they jump on it. So you just can learn so much.
You can get to that aha moment quicker.
And that's how, when we go back to the angles,
Yep.
again, another thing that I've learned is how important the angles are. And this can be something as simple as, you got a door over here and I'm firing from this side and I'm cranking and got one, or throwing a football jig and I get one, I catch a couple. And then all of a sudden you switch sides. You're throwing and you're learning, you're not getting bites, or they're reacting different, or they're hanging by your boat now. The gig's up, and then you switch sides, and all of a sudden you see a different reaction, or you see a negative reaction.
Sure.
There's a Pickwick last year. I'd never been there, but I was looking at my chops. I generally excel in the Tennessee River offshore fishing. I really enjoy ledge fishing. Stuff like that, when I flick the graphs on and just go to town. And I'd rather, my mentality is I'd rather fish for 20 than 1.
Yep.
And
I'm with
go
you on
that
that.
way. Yep. I know you are. You always have been since we were fishing that deal. Well, I mean, this is an extreme way of it. But I pulled up on my ledge right away in the morning. And I wasn't active targeting. Like, I haven't had like an active target tournament that I just excelled at, and I did really exceptional because I had it. I've caught in some badass fish because of it, but I've also made a lot of mistakes because of it too. This particular time, a lot of times I'm using the active target in the tournament now just to kind of like look at something, and then they'll get shy of it and turn it away from. Well, I kind of shine it at the ledge at like 100, 120, and I can just see them. You're not going to see real specific, and this was AT1, but you'll still see them at 100 clear. And I had mine at like 120. I ended up putting it at like 100 by shining it, and they're just all sitting on the ledge like ready to go, dude, in that fighting position. You can just you're getting a bite. Throw my football jig in there, bam, 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 catch 2 or 3 quick. Then they kind of stop. I rotate baits, pick up the 6XD or something like that. So through there, bam, 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 catch some more. Try the drop shot, NACO rig, stuff like that. Pick up an 8XD, fire it in there, and they're moving away from it. So I'm just like seeing where they're at and then firing and like holding water again, not using it. But I could see all of a sudden I was like looking just right at the school, and they're kind of busted up. And right at I was probably casting 120, 130 or whatever, 8XD, you can let it fly. And maybe further. And I was bringing it in, and I would see the 8XD come in at 100. Right? That's what I had it set to. And I'd see it come like this, like it was just about to hit the ground. I could see it there. And then it would go like this and watch the fish move out of the way, and come back. And then my bait would come up to within about 20 feet and then start to come up right away, even though I'm trying to keep it down there. Naturally, I'm running out of line. It's going to come up. And I'm looking, and I'm like, God, I got these big fish underneath my boat. So they're hanging by my boat. So I do the traditional deal. I grab the drop shot, and they look at it like predators do, and they're not going to eat it. And I try to put a spoon down there, a reaction bite, and try to get one to bite. Nothing. They just move out of the way, just like they were doing to the 8XD. So then I'm like, I gotta figure out. All right. So I get up on my deck and I freaking fling the 8XD. I'm reeling. I see that 100, and then I walk to the back of my boat, and I'm back by my engine, literally sitting.
This episode is brought to you by just north of Memphis Barbecue. This is World Champion Barbecue. If you smoke meat, and you don't like good barbecue, I do not know what to tell you right now besides you need to try some of this stuff. They've got their rub, they've got their sauces right on their website. They've got their famous dry rub award-winning seasoning that you could put on ribs, brisket, pulled pork, chicken, wings, anything you like to put on the smoker, on the oven, on the grill, any meat you like to cook, you need some of this dry rub seasoning in your life. But don't forget the sauce, because that's award-winning world champion sauce here. No matter what flavor you like, they've got 3 different sauces, and they are all good. You can drink them straight out the bottle. We've got Sweet Christie's for all you sweet-loving barbecue folk. We've got Christie's Mischief for all you spicy bass anglers out there. And then we've got Christie's Gold. And they'll sell all 3 of them in a combo. But you need to go to their website right now. It's jnomemphis.com. That's jnomemphis.com. Dry rub, sauce, barbecue. Let's go! Attention all smallmouth anglers. Have you thrown the marabou jig? Have you thrown the hair jig? Well, if you have, you're going to want to listen right now. This podcast is brought to you by Veselka Fishing and Customs, a custom rod shop based out of Minnesota, and he has developed the answer, folks. What if I told you you could throw that marabou jig 30 to 50% further than you're casting it right now? Well, Dane, Mr. Veselka himself, has developed the answer. It's a custom 8-foot hair jig rod developed on a steelhead fly blank. He's put custom fly guides on this, so you're really going to be able to outcast the competition, catch more smallmouth. They aren't going to see you. What more do you need? Here's what I need you to do right now. Visit veselkafishing.com. That's VOCELKA fishing.com. This is the 8-foot hair jig rod, but this guy can build you anything you want. If you can dream it, he can do it.
And there was my rod like down on the bottom edge. I'm just reeling it as fast as I can. And I'm reeling it through. I just like started to walk back towards the back of my boat. I'm just reeling. And I watch on my active target as that 8XD comes under the boat now. Not comes up like they see every day.
Yep.
It comes this way. And it comes right to them. They're in the middle. I'm dropping. I'm realizing that, oh, God, I can see on my active target behind me really good here. I'm in probably, the ledge is probably in 13, 14, and I'm sitting out in like 22, 24, something like that. Sure. And so I'm dropping. I can't hit them. So I start doing this. I start figuring, oh, man, they're like underneath my driver's seat and stuff, like where they're at.
Yep.
So I walk that 8XD all the way to them. I watch that bait come like this, and as soon as it goes straight up from underneath the boat, bam, a 4-pounder wraps. I watched it right on the active target, just turn around, just grab it.
No kidding.
And again, it's just allowing me to make different decisions. And from that, I'm a true believer now, and I've had a lot of stuff like that, where not only angles and everything, show them something different. So the angle's just one of the many things that you got to switch and keep them honest and keep moving around. But yes, offshore fishing, angles are super duper important. Collecting as much knowledge as you possibly can. Yeah. And trying to change things, show them something that they're not seeing. Right. Is how you win bass tournaments.
I agree with that.
Totally.
Yeah. Mille Lacs. So I've noticed something, and you being a guide on Mille Lacs, I'm curious with how the reefs lay out, like the terrain, and how they erode, and where like the steeper slopes are on those reefs. I've found it kind of interesting how they're on. So like if you have a reef, let's say on the east side of the lake, the east side of that reef will have the sharpest drop, it seems like.
Most cases.
Yeah. So my theory on that is the lake current and the undertow of it causes that erosion. Have you found, is that kind of what you think too?
Yeah.
Or what's your theory on why those reefs lay out that way?
Yeah, no. I mean, Mille Lacs is a glacial lake. So the glaciers just for starters, did a giant number on the lake. And that's why there's random stuff in the middle of nowhere and all that kind of stuff on the lake. And nothing really truly makes sense when you look at it. But what you're saying does kind of, it really seems to hold true there. And
It's that way on the west side and the east side, so it's all I can think of.
but the point you made, and is it? I don't know. It could be for sure.
Well, I have a theory on why, but anyway,
I do want to hear that because the lake is a current lake.
Yeah.
It's driven off a current.
Bingo.
So a lot of stuff when people, whether you're coming into town, I'll always try to help you put in the right spot. And I really don't want to come off like a dick or something because
Send them all to Hennepin Island.
Right. Like I just, you know what I mean? Just because if you ask me how to catch them, I'm more apt than where.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
I'm more apt to want to help. And one thing about that I always tell people when they hit me up about Mille Lacs is it's good in a full circle. It's truly good in a full circle. Everyone, where are you going out of? Where you're catching them? Like it's good in a full circle. You can find new stuff on that lake every day. That's what I do, and that's why I'm good on that lake is because I live right there. Right. I get it. If you come up on a Saturday, you get one Saturday every 2 weeks fish Mille Lacs. You don't want to idle around and mow the lawn every 100 feet to find the stuff that I am.
Mm-hmm.
I catch them all. I get to catch them all the time. So for me, it's as fun finding them as it is. But if that's your day to go there, you want to pull on them. So I get it. So you just can't cover ground like I can.
Right.
And do that. And so you have to be good in a full circle on that lake because two things. Well, it's all one thing, the wind.
Yeah.
So the wind dictates where you're going to fish.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that, lake has taught me that a lot. Something I should have learned on Minnetonka earlier.
Sure.
Instead of forcing a spot, there's right times. And I listened to your and Seth's podcast, and I heard him say a couple things that was like, he knew that kind of stuff. Him and Figgy knew that kind of stuff, and they dominated on that lake for a long time. Spots that maybe paid their bills, and they just had the kahunas to not go there because it wasn't right. But for that 10 minutes, it was right, and they win a tournament, right?
Yep.
So there's stuff like that. I wish I would have learned a little bit more of that. I was more spot-orientated then. Mille Lacs actually really helped me learn that, it's a spot lake. The more spots you have, the better you're going to be if you understand where they're going to want to be and what time of year to be there.
Right.
But it's the current that the wind creates on that lake that sets those fish up in very, very predictable spots. Everyone talks about it as a boulder lake. Of course, we used to try to keep it quiet. I've learned now there's a million of them, so it doesn't really matter.
Yep. You can find your own.
There's some that have been burned to the ground that sit in the desert that they've seen too many good fishermen boats sit on it over time, and it just got beat down. But every single reef on that lake, whether it's attached to the bank or it's not, is full of smallmouth bass. But where they're going to set up on that reef day to day changes because of how the wind moves. And there's certain winds that I can look at in the morning at Hunter's Point before I go and I'm sipping a cup of coffee and go, boys, we're going to whack them because of the way the wind is going and how predictable those big fish are going to set up at that time. So because of that and because of the couple directions that the wind is really prevalent or whatever the word is, I could see your theory of wind. I mean, wind will and water. Water destroys stuff.
Yep.
So I was in avionics for a long time. I'm CMAP now. I know a lot about mapping. I've been preaching mapping to a lot of people. This user-generated content mapping and stuff is kind of the future, or was thought to be the future, because mapping does change that fast. Water changes the structure underneath in a very, very relatively quick hurry.
Sure.
Now, is it going to move a 10-foot boulder across the lake? Probably not, but not in our lifetime are we going to see any real changes to that. But sculpting away ledges on the Kentucky Lake, changing the reefs, stuff like that. Oh, for sure, for 100%.
Rivers with
rivers are almost rivers can be overnight.
Time. Yeah,
that can be depending on what happens.
Right. Your closing dam could be covered in sand and mud.
100%. But closing dam, a reef is just a wing dam. It's just a closing dam. That's all it is. It comes up like this. It goes like this.
Yep.
And sometimes they're on that steep drop. There can be bigger, better stuff on that steep drop. The other times they're off on the end. Sometimes they're up on top, and then sometimes they're on the lazy side.
Right.
On specific hard targets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or the cuts that the glaciers made in the rock.
Yep.
But bottom line is you have to fish what the lake's giving you.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to. Because if you try to force it, too big of waves, you're going to be too loud. The water's going to get too dirty. That's a fish that can see a bait 20 feet away. No
Right.
problem. You make the water all dirty on them, they're not going to want to bite. You're giving them the advantage now,
Right.
and you're handcuffing yourself. So you'd be better off moving around. But then again, everything looks the same. It's a big circle, so you got to really turn those electronics on. So I 100%, I want to hear why and your take on what the wind does, but I'm on how it can sculpt some of those reefs or make it. Maybe because it most definitely is a current. There's some streams in the Rum River and all that. There's some stuff coming and going, but nothing that's causing current to flow through like a reservoir.
Right.
But the way that wind blows, there's times.
There's a lot of force behind it.
There's time the current's so strong, I can't even you have the current so strong is going to create big waves. Now my trolling motor doesn't stay in the water.
Right.
Or it goes, every time I come out, I'm too loud.
Yep.
There's other times I can't hold on nothing. I can't move forward. The current's so strong that I can't go. And then there's other times the current gets lazy or comes back, and it's like you get those real lazy. That's when you're the loudest. Your boat slaps. Everything but everything's really still, but it's not because or it blew this way so hard, and now it's blowing this way. So the top of the lake is it's
the
like
waves get weird out there.
Because your anchor on my trolling motor, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like the wind, I can see the waves coming this way, but I'm anchored this way. So it's really the current still pummeling this way.
Yep.
This is just top stuff. It hasn't switched over.
Right.
And so that dictates a lot of the areas that I'm going to fish and when I'm going to fish in those areas.
Sure.
So I could see it's most definitely that current and wind shapes the features underneath the water on Lake Mille Lacs, but I want to hear your deal.
Well, and this is just a theory, and there's boulder fishing out there, and then there's reef fishing where you have edges or breaks, right? And this epiphany came partially when I fished Sturgeon Bay. I learned a little bit about lake current, but by no means have it figured out, right? But I've had it where Mille Lacs, where the wind's blowing. Let's say we're on the east side and the wind's from the west. And let's say it's sustained for 2-3 days. It's been out of the west, right? And, maybe it switches, maybe it doesn't. But I've been on the east side of those reefs where that break seems to be steeper, closer on the shoreline side of the reef. And the wind's coming from the west. And everything I've learned about smallmouth is that like the active ones are typically on like the upwind side or the upcurrent side of something. And I've had it where I'm fishing that break and I'm not getting bit because I'm casting upwind. And then all of a sudden I turn and I 45 towards shore, and now I'm casting. It felt like I was kind of casting up current, so to speak, because that wind, it's got to go somewhere, right? It can't just keep going into the the water's just not going to keep going into the cabins on shore. It has to come back somewhere.
Back current,
So like the wind was blowing this way, but on that shelf, the current was hitting that shelf, and those smallmouth position up current. Like if you fish a wing dam, the most active ones are where that current hits and changes, and they get in a conga line, and they, you can get them. I've had that on Mille Lacs where you can throw up wind and drag it down that steep break, not get bit, and all of a sudden you make that change and you 45 downwind.
Yep.
And all of a sudden the current's pulling that bait in right along that break, and like your bait is being presented more efficiently and B more naturally. And that started to make, I'm like, it's a slow tapering break on the west side of this reef. It's a sharp tapering break on this side, and that's all I can think of as to why the terrain is that way and the fish position that way is because of undertow and lake current causing that. But it could be the glaciers a long time ago that did that. It just is funny to me why the glaciers would cut between the reef and shore on both sides of the lake.
I think I mean,
and it varies,
and I learned a little bit more of this because of my last couple year fascination with agates, which were formed 1 billion years ago.
Sure.
If you can wrap that around a person's head, like we humans have been here for I don't even know. I'd lie if I said, but we're we're like a decimal 0% of the world scale of what's been here. So I'm guessing when the glaciers actually came and backed up, Mille Lacs was freaking huge.
Yeah.
Like my yard, I live on the east side of lake, across the street.
Yep.
But in my woods in my backyard, I have reefs, like rock reefs. If the lake would be bigger, that would be a reef. Like it literally looks exactly like the tops of the reefs on the lake in my backyard. And, the glaciers, we've had several ice ages that have come down. Glaciers have come down and then retreated all the way back up. And this is obviously well before man was here to make anything melt away or anything. But
there could have been men in ancient civilizations.
Who knows?
Right? Before that. Like there might have been a different Mille Lacs, people
that's
guiding
buried
on that.
underneath.
Yeah,
we have no idea.
Yeah,
but as those glaciers scrape, they push that crust off of the earth.
Yep.
And then as it melts, it doesn't go backwards.
Right.
It just sheds and starts to melt off like what we're getting out here now. It doesn't retreat back. So when it does that, it just leaves random piles or boulders or rock piles, massive, like just sitting there.
Yep.
And I'll tell you this. I would go, if I had to place a bet on it, I would say the glaciers are largely responsible for the randomness of the lake.
Yep.
But there's no doubt about it that through, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, that there was erosion and stuff or whatever, certain winds are cutting and changing. Everything changes.
Yeah.
That's something I just realized as I get older in every walk of life.
Yeah.
Everything will change.
Right.
So you might as well get on the train and start
you better change with it.
Because it's just everybody has new ideas and people just kind of keep coming with it. So same thing with the lake is whether it was a damn ocean at one time or not, whatever the hell was attached to Superior. I've heard all kinds of crazy things, but we would never know.
Right.
And we'll never really know, as it'll be a lifetime before we see any kind of changes, lifetime before you see any kind of changes. So I think you're right. I think it was a group effort, but I will tell you that you just taught your listeners a very, very good lesson about Lake Mille Lacs, and that's good stuff because so much of it is about presentation, and we talked about it, angles, cast angles and switching angles, presenting it to them in a more natural way that's going to make them want to eat.
Yeah.
And looking at the water and how that water is moving, you're catching seams in this big giant body of water. You're catching them. You're making the lake fish small, and that's what I tell people all the time: make the lake fish small.
Right.
Pick an area that's manageable to fish, and break it down and figure it out. And as the current changes through the day, and like what you found, all of a sudden you hit it right and you present it to them right.
Right.
And if you really think about it this way, a lot of times we're using lighter tackle for smallmouth. A little perfect net head or something, or whatever you throw. You know what I mean? A little 3/16, eighth ounce, whatever it is that you're throwing out there. So you got to think about this on a calm day when you don't have a lot of current, and you drag it. That net rig just going to go like this right across the bottom.
Sure.
Okay, snag you in there, right? On a day where you're bucking like this, but it's more that top stuff we were talking about, then you might have a walleye chop, or they'll call it a fish biting chop going. You know what I mean? It's kind of perfect because you can get a little closer to them without them figuring out you're there.
Right.
And it ain't dead calm. They can't see you, but it's not so noisy that you're too much. But then there's other times where, let's say you can stay there. Every time you pull that little eighth ounce Ned rig, it's going to go.
You can't keep it there.
The current is going to move it so far away. And again, these are things that I learned from an active target.
Yeah.
When you're watching a bait, oh my God. Thinking of throwing chatterbait and thinking I'm throwing it a foot off the bottom and I'm 5 feet up off the bottom.
Yeah.
And the whole time, like, I don't even know if I can reel this thing that slow. Is it going to vibrate that slow? Stuff like that. So there's a lot that goes into that, and that current creates a lot of stuff. And that changes how much weight you need to use, how you're going to present it to the fish.
Right.
Sometimes it's just better to be naive and just go fishing and just catch them. But when you really do, how we have minds like that of thinking, but that's when you really start breaking down. But it can make a man go crazy too when he's trying to, like, how do I figure this out on this lake? I'm doing this.
Well, that's why I brought it up, because to me, like a river, I love tournament fishing on rivers because you have a constant, and that's the current's going to move one direction. You have a constant wind, and lakes, that current's always changing, unless that wind's sustainable from the west or the east or what have you. So do you have I guess, and to me, that's like, I've never listened to a podcast. There's no information out there about how to predict lake current, and I'm a bass nerd. So I mean, do you have a way that, like, do you have, and it's not a science, but do you have like a general like rule of thumb that you found from all that time out there that, understanding what a certain wind is going to do to lake current? Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I do with where I've had success, then backed it up, and then where I failed and backed that up and backed that up. So I forcing different spots under different conditions, or even thinking I have premium conditions to fish a spot, and it's just not working because of whatever reason. It's not dialing them up. In the fall, if you get a big southeast wind on Lake Mille Lacs, it's going to do things on that lake, special things. It's going to create giant back eddies and stuff. If you're looking at it as a river fisherman, them points on that lake does big things to that lake. You got Indian Point on one side, you got Big Point on the other, you got Hunter Point.
I suppose.
You got different areas of lake, and you look at the corners are sand.
Yeah.
Okay? They're all sanded in on the corners. Mostly. You got Miramar, it's got its own thing going on out there, but it's a lot of sand in between Miramar and all around it. So it's got different things going on, but it'll definitely, different winds will definitely put those fish in different spots. Predicting that is always tough. You can never predict anything on Lake Mille Lacs because the weatherman's not good enough to tell us that.
Yeah.
And then you have to really have any lake you fish, you have to have a real intimate relationship, intimate knowledge of that fishery.
Yep.
To do stuff like what you just told me. Like that, like you're going, you went towards the shore and you started seeing this. One, you got to have a bassy mind. Two, you got to be observant enough to notice that. And three, you got to know the fishery. Like you can't go to Hartwell and say all that lined up and just write blue backs where they need to be. But somebody from Hartwell probably could do something like that. So, those are the battles in bass fishing. Whether you're doing it for fun because you just love to bass fish with your friends and your family and whatever, or whether you're a diehard pro trying to win classic trophies, those are the catch-22s all the time that you need to – there's never a right answer. There's always a wrong answer.
Always a wrong answer.
But the right answer will always change, and you just have to do it. In particular, I needed lacrosse last year to get into I believe I was in – I could be wrong – I was Bubble Boy or just in the Classic going into lacrosse.
Sure.
Which I historically have not done well on. I've had 2 FLW events. I didn't catch them. If smallmouth aren't a major player there, I seem to not do well. I just got to work. But I got to get better. But at the same time, the river was low. Okay? Last fall,
been low.
River was really low.
Yep.
I found some stuff up on Pool 7.
I love Pool 7.
I should have fished. I should have went there.
Love Pool 7.
I knew a lot of people were going to stay in 8, especially ones that were already qualified or close enough that they just have to catch a couple bass and get in. Why would you ever risk locking under that situation?
Yeah.
You're just going to stay local, catch a bass or two, weigh them in, hope you do real well. I mean, like they're not on 8. A lot of tournaments get 1 on 8. And
True.
I didn't love what I had on 7. And I was fishing 8, and I really wasn't doing well. And all of a sudden, I came across a current seam sand drop. That was a current, like a chute that came in and connected with another chute and created a sand drop.
Yep.
Well, there wasn't a lot of current the whole time because the river was real low and stagnant that time of year, not a lot going on.
Yeah.
So that day was the last day of the practice that I found it. And I actually got stuck on the sand, which kept me there for a little bit, and I wasn't schooled. And I threw over there, and then I could see the cut. Perfect. But the current was clipping over this thing. Nice.
Perfect.
And I throw up there, I catch like a 3-pound largie and on a topwater bait. And then I kind of got around. I think they kept schooling there. I threw in there, caught like a 2-pound largie. And they kept schooling. So what I was telling you earlier, okay, I'm done fishing for them. I don't need to catch them no more. It's a good spot. And I'm thinking it's an okay spot right now. It looked good, and they're blowing shad up and stuff in there. Well, so then I got around the outside of it. I finally got off the sand. Now I'm sitting off the end of it, and I chuck a Carolina rig up there, and I catch like a 4-pound smallmouth. And he had a couple more with him.
Yeah.
So now I got both there.
Yeah.
And the current's coming over it, and I just kind of sat there. Anybody else coming, never saw nobody. I fished other areas around there and kept an eye on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's exactly what you don't want. We can get into a little bit of this I do have advice for people when it comes to practicing big tournaments from mistakes that I've made in the past.
From that.
But so I sat there for a little bit and fished around it because you always want to have a little something around a spot. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And just kind of jazzing and watching them school a little bit, and that current was just clipping over it. So I scrapped everything at 7. I'm going to 8. And that cost me the Bassmaster Classic, for sure. I went to it on day 1, and there was no current. None. And Patrick Walters beat me there. Actually took a real scary way in. And he ran it. But he was there. And Patrick runs.
He made it.
He's the man. He runs crazy water. So I'm not saying that. But, like, I didn't have the kahunas to run in from that side. So he beat me there. Plus, they go off by AOY standing, you know. And so I was right around that 40 mark or something to get in.
Yep.
So, and he was probably in the top 10 or 20 or whatever. So he naturally beat me to the spot. Super cool about him, my dude. I threw everything away for this damn spot. Can I fish here? And he's like, dude, you can have the spot. I'm not catching him. And he left and gave it to me, you know. And
this was in 7 or 8?
this is staying in 8 now for the tournament. And sure enough, I caught a couple rats that didn't keep. Nothing. Stayed there a little too long. Kind of rattled around, threw a frog around to kind of get a little small limit. And day 2, I went back there. But I figured something out that I started thinking, like, why? What happened? It was a day, or maybe we had an off day. It was probably a day off, and then that. Well, we had a 20-mile-an-hour north wind, and the Mississippi River flows north to south. So the north wind created current with the low water. It forced current across that sandbar, which just brought in any fish in. Well, the next day we had a south wind, and it was light at 6. So there's just no current.
Yep.
None. They
so
weren't
wind
there.
was a big factor on the river.
It was everything.
Yeah.
The wind was creating current.
Right.
Which generally the wind, you can have, strong north to south current, and then a strong south wind screws that all up because it kind of meshes and just it's gross to fish. It's tough. It's hard to fish. Yeah, you can't. Your boat's not where you want it to be. Your bait, the top of your line staying up here, the bottom's going too fast, all kinds of stuff. And that was it. Day 2, and so I was going to go to 7. And then day 2, I looked and we had like a 16 north wind or something like that. And I went there and I caught him, and I had a lot better second day. I jumped up, but just not enough to get in. So do I wish, I had more knowledge? It ain't my first time at La Crosse. It was my third time there. I didn't grow up fishing there. I fished Wabasha and stuff like that, so I had. And Brent Haynes was a mentor
seen the water
to
that
me.
low, though.
It was low when we were there at the FLW a couple times. So I'd seen it low. But it's just stuff that you need that to happen.
Right.
And then just when you think you know it, just when you think, okay, I'm not going to make that mistake again, then all of a sudden, it's just something you got to know, you know, or same deal if we go tidal. We're the furthest state away from a tide. Right. Literally, we might be. I mean, I just threw that out there, but we might actually be the furthest state away from a tidal water.
Probably are.
We're about dead center in the middle.
Maybe Iowa.
Yeah, something, right.
Nebraska, maybe. Yeah.
But you learn, like I remember, at one tournament, I ran the tide perfect. I thought I was the man. Next day, I butchered it to hell, and I come back in, and seemed like I was an hour late or an hour early to every spot I went. And I was talking to a buddy in line. He's like, oh, it was a supermoon today. What the hell does that mean? He's like, well, a supermoon's going to mess up the tide. Everything's going to come up another foot. It's going to linger and take a long time to come out.
So it's delayed?
So it delayed it by an hour. So I was behind, then I tried to catch up, and I got too far ahead of it, and then I went the wrong direction. Wow. Yeah. So
that's a mind fuck.
The thing about it is I mean, those are things that are easy to peg when you're, capitalizing on it. Yeah. But at the same time, you look back at them and say, man, I wish I would have done that. And those are the learning lessons. Is there a Mille Lacs, a single rule out there? No, it's just some of the spots that I've had luck with, and it's not even spots. That's the thing. That's what I really want to get across right now is, yes, I have stop signs. I call them.
I do too.
Places on the lake that I can pull up and catch a bass. Mm-hmm. unless it's August, rarely do I ever start on any of that kind. I have thousands of them. I have that much time out on that lake.
I bet. I can only imagine.
More than I could fish. Like, it's getting to the point where, and they're all good. And it's too many.
Yep.
Because if I have a big tournament out there, I mean, I need the weather to be messy to force me to just fish one area, because if I have too many options, you know what I mean? It's getting to be that. But I never guide that way. I mean, I'm always looking for schools. Schools are way better than anything. I've never, like when it comes to like a boulder or something, I mean, I've caught a couple sixes doing it that way, but my biggest bass always come out of schools. Why wouldn't they? They run the show. So they're going to get away with a lot more. There's a pecking order, and again, another active target. I'm not selling. And this is forward sonar. I'm not selling anything here. I'm talking forward sonar and learning is all I'm trying to do. But I've seen where smallmouth have a damn pecking order on your bait on who's going to get it. There's times you throw it and it's just a mad rush and things go to it, and maybe the 3-pounder got it. But I've also seen where clearly the two biggest ones came and looked at it, decided they didn't want it. A couple more come around, look, and then finally you set the hook and it's like the 2.5-pounder in the bunch. Decided it's time. Oh, I can eat that now?
Yep.
There's, I mean, the dominant one roost. You know what I mean? And they're going to eat if they want to eat. And that's just the way it's going to go. And it's just stuff that you just kind of learn. But current's huge on Lake Mille Lacs, man.
I agree.
It's big on a lot of lakes.
It is.
Wind creates current, and it's going to set them up. And that's something when I look back at Minnetonka, which is, if you're looking at it, it's a small lake, and it's a small lake of a bunch of little lakes.
Yep.
So it's really a bunch of little lakes for the most part that you're fishing out there. But there's a dirty water area. There's a clean water area. There's some current that actually does flow through, whether it's wind, but there is a little bit. It's because it necks down in so many spots, it forces.
And then boat current.
Boat current's a big one, and that's dude.
That's a sleeper one.
Yeah, that's one thing not everybody, the ones that know don't, but like people bitch about the boat traffic on Minnetonka, and I'm like, dude, I want them freaking 4-footers flowing everywhere around me. Yeah, you just catch a bass slipping. They're used to that. Hell, they use that to eat bluegills. A cruiser comes by, scatters the bluegill, and they go tunk tunk tunk.
That was the wildest thing I had heard is guys fishing in the channel, like throwing into the prop wash of people's boats, like because that's when they eat. That's
biggest
wild.
smallmouth for sure, and absolute everything in my life. I've had an 8. I've never caught a 7 smallie. Certainly never caught an 8. But I most definitely had one on Lake Erie. And I actually had a great day already. I had like 22.5 pounds.
Cool.
And I was on Lake Erie in a tournament, Bass Open. And a guy was sitting there, and he, it's towards the end. The Great Lakes, you can't help it. You end up in floatzillas. It's just kind of how the Great Lakes work, for better or for worse. Yeah, it's just smallmouth venues, just the school's here, and they're just, sometimes guys are going to come over and jack your bass, and then you return the favor 10 minutes later when they're firing over there or whatever. But it's just, there's schools, and because probably current stuff sets the school up in different areas, and some people are doing it in a better manner, others aren't. But regardless, so as flight time's got to be back in. One guy's like, dude, Dougie, so I'm out of here. See you, man. And he's sitting there, and I took my drop shot. Like I said, I already had 22.5 in the box. And as soon as he got that mercury up, I freaking sent the drop shot right at the back of his engine, and it fell. And went to the bottom. And this is in the middle of Lake Erie off Pelee Island, dude. Wow. Like, we're out in the middle of it. Nowhere. Probably fishing like 16, 17, 15, 14 feet, somewhere in that range. Mid-teens.
Yep.
And when I picked it up, as I was slowly picking up the pin, my chartreuse line just kept going further left. And I'm like, oh, man. So he was on it, like, right away.
Crazy.
So that prop, I almost chopped off my damn drop shot into his prop. Like, I was just, nothing. He was leaving. I wasn't nothing bad. We were getting along the whole time. I just used it as a quick,
Usually people would be pissed off he took off that close.
But not like this. No, right.
You were
this is like we're like. Here big waves are coming in. That gave me a break in the wave for a second. So it was nothing there. But flinging over there and picking up the line, it's cutting to the left, and it was probably my best hook set of the entire tournament, and I hit him, and he comes up, and right away I'm like, big one. And my co-angler was like, he comes up, and that thing wallowed at the surface. And I'm like, oh, my. Dude, it was an ape. It was the biggest smallmouth I've ever seen in my – and I saw him a lot because he came there, he fought around. He's all over.
Oh.
And my co-angler's sitting there with the net. This one we could use nets, and he's sitting there with it. And reel it in. I'm going like this. I'm opening up. He did everything right, had it laying there and everything.
Yep.
And right when he was about to go in the net, he gave it one last one of these, and he pulled off, or so I thought he pulled off. And I'm like, oh, my God. You know, I was one. It was kind of early. It was like my first Erie tournament or whatever, so I was doing pretty good, so I was already kind of pumped. But that was the biggest smallmouth of my life.
Yeah,
you know, like that thing was gone. And I went to put my a new bait on, and he broke the hook right under the barb. So he kept the barb. He was so big that it was a good hook. It was a good brand. It's not the one I'm with now, but it was anything can happen to anybody's stuff, right? It's just everything can break no matter what. I've learned that.
Yeah.
And this was a good company. Like, this is a great hook.
Right.
And he just, it was a light wire, a little drop shot hook, and he was a big fish, and he was trying to pull away from the net, and that thing broke off under the barb, so he must have kept the barb and popped off and got away. So it's an ultimate fish story, but I'm telling you straight up, that was the biggest
right in the prop.
Biggest smallmouth that ever came out of a prop wash. And I learned that early in my Gopher Bassmaster days. We were fishing a local river in the Twin Cities, and there's a little area of this river that channels down. Mm-hmm. And is it cigarette boats or cigar? What do they call those boats?
Oh, yeah.
The big dog.
Yeah, cigar boats.
Cigar boats, that's what it is.
Yep.
They,
Chris Crafts or something.
Yeah, big giant doggers. And this place was
tiny dick boats.
Yeah. And this you had to neck down and no wake.
Yeah.
And I got it, and I'd fish this air in the morning. I'd do a little topwater deal, and then I'd go in there and throw a tube.
Okay.
But you couldn't catch them there in the morning. Nobody was going through. You'd have to go in there at like 11 or noon when it's just hopping full of boats going through there. And I just think all that vibration, all them boats, stir up the crawdads, move the shad, move the perch, stuff like that. And the smallmouth just take pure advantage of that.
They're opportunistic. Yeah.
For sure. Distracted.
That's crazy.
Distracted.
That's
just
wild.
why a muskie grabs a smallmouth or a bass or a northern pike when we're reeling them in.
Yep.
Well, that fish is obviously distracted.
Right.
And it's their opportunity. He can't get away. They're going to take full advantage of that and T-bone that thing.
Absolutely. God, that story about you losing a big one just makes me think about my buddy JP. I know he's going to be listening to this, but he had a heartbreaker on Mille Lacs last October. He's throwing a jerk bait. And so I was in a boat with a buddy, and he was actually with George Little, and we were doing Mille Lacs Smallmouth Alliance stuff. And we kind of meet, midday, and George and JP, they just have this weird look on their face, like something bad happened.
Yeah. Punch right in the stomach.
And I'm like, oh, they probably lost a big one or something. And they're like, you're not going to believe what just happened. So he's throwing a jerk bait. And I guess he had like a 5 and a 6 pounder on the same jerkbait. Like 11 pounds of smallmouth on one jerkbait. It was a Vision 110 Junior +1 junior.
Oh, little guy.
Little guy, right? And I guess he had like 2 just magnums on this thing. And I had a 6 pounder that day. They were biting decent.
Yeah. This was last fall?
Yeah, last fall.
There was a little while there, I catch a 6 pounder every day. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
I mean, I only went out there one day. We didn't get a ton of bites, but I mean, we had probably 23 to 25 pounds.
I mean, not truly, but it was it was just one of those falls that it was like, oh, wow, the lake is healthy.
Yeah.
One of those, yeah.
We got him by the boat and straightened his hooks out, broke them. And it's like, that'd be like the coolest catch of my life if I caught a 5 and a 6 pound smallmouth on the same jerkbait. And I guess it was right by the boat, like they're just toying with them. And,
that's it.
Your story of that one big one made me think of that. Like,
I've had them take Hartwell. I had a big fish. I finished 41st in an open, so one spot out of the check.
Yep.
But my biggest bass of the entire time was a largemouth that ate a spy bait over a cane pile.
Wow!
It was a big spot actually. It was like a 4-pound spot. And he ate my spy bait over a brush pile. And I had them. I touched them like 3 times. I just couldn't quite get them. They're diggers. They just keep going down. They're not jumpers. They're diggers. They just keep going down. You're like, oh. And he had the hook all good. Like, I just wasn't too worried about it. And right when I was about to get him, all of a sudden he does one of those and he gets away.
Sure.
I'm like, he just pulled off. Like, God, I should have had better hands. I get up and I needed that one. And that's the difference there of a 41st to a top 20, know, and you're like, And I get up and I look at my bait, and he took a treble hook off of the O-ring. So the O-ring's still dangling there, and the treble hook's gone. He took the whole hook, but it somehow got stripped off, It must have just got just right at the right time. And like popped into it, and then slowly as he's fighting and digging and going down, he just kept. And what are the odds? What's the odds? All that worked out for that fish to get off. I just sat there and looked at a spy bait with only one hook on it, but the treble hook was still there. I mean the
O-ring was
still there.
See, I've had the spy bait, the back part unscrew on.
Yeah, this
I
is
lost
the front
one doing
hook.
that.
This
and
is
I've
the
super
front
glued them
hook,
all
too.
after. The front one.
Yeah, that was the thing. I don't know if they ever fixed that or not. I like to throw a spy bait.
I was gonna ask.
A good
you
bit.
throw it a lot?
Well, yeah, I'm a hair jig fisherman, so it's the same thing. You
Yep.
just fish it deeper and stuff like that. It's
Definitely.
Just, when you start getting that in tune with like the water columns and knowing, just trusting where your bait's at and stuff like that, and it can be a pretty deadly bait, or at least it was. But I mean, I still throw it a good bit.
Do you find like so a hair jig's obviously really good from spring until like
The
July
Mayfly
for
hatch.
me. Yep.
Yeah, 4th of July through 4th of July.
Later in the season, do you catch them better on a spy bait than early?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
No,
they get on minnows a little more.
Yep, 100%. Yep. Yeah, Tulip spawn late. The perch spawn, not the perch spawn. The perch fry is going to be real predominant around that 4th of July, July 15th time, and then on.
I got
those
you.
Little guys are trying to get off of the reefs and out to that deeper water and stuff like that, and they kind of hang in that. It's too cold and stuff for them. They don't have the plankton and stuff they need out deep.
Sure.
So they kind of hover in that 10-foot, 12-foot range.
Yep.
So the bass have a whole heck of a lot to look at. So it kind of fits that profile real good. And one of the biggest keys of smallmouth is just their eyes.
Yeah.
They have incredible eyes.
They do.
I can see a fish on the bottom at 19 feet, throw a wacky Cinco at it, and watch them come up. And that thing's only a foot under the surface, and he already knows it's there. And he can come up and, he'll come
That's
up
crazy.
like Shamu and like look at it and back, go down with it slowly and swim away and come back. And then his buddy comes and looks at it, and then and sometimes they eat it, and sometimes you throw it and you're just like, and they just take off with it. But
that's so crazy.
That's why, they eat mayflies and stuff like that, and little fish flies, and then it seems like the bigger ones do that. They know they have better eyes. They can. You don't catch too many small ones, at least not. You can run around real shallow and throw a hair jig around and catch God only knows. You catch a northern whatever on it. But if you're fishing like the meat of the lake with them, you need you're generally only catching 3 3/4 to 6 pounders to 5. A lot of 4s and 5s, and if you throw a Ned rig, you start catching the smaller ones. I think they're still real crawdad orientated on the bottom, but the big dogs know post spawn that's an easy meal for them, is just to eat mayflies as they're coming up, and nothing fits. But again, they'll see them. They see that little tiny bug, that little tiny carcass. They see that, and it's just crazy to me how truly good their eyes are, and then how violent their mentality is too, because why do they eat a big pink fluke and big chartreuse fluke? Because they're just mad at it. They're mad.
Well, there's two ends of the spectrum. Post spawn seems to be the time where they're like absolutely, it's like the hair jig, or like it's like it's like they become like a bipolar female, like just
they're looking up. They're you get them looking up. We start getting that weird slime and algae on the rocks, so it's kind of tough to efficiently fish that stuff with a tube or a jig or a Ned rig. So you gotta. I'm sure they're still chasing crawdad. They'll always eat a crawdad.
They will.
I'm sure they're still doing that. But they're just off floating in la la land. They're chasing those areas where I'm sure they know. Like every other animal knows when the lions know and the zebras are moving and migrating or whatever. I mean, I'm just talking crap now. But at the same, I'm sure they know they come off the spawn.
Yep.
And they're gonna get off the reefs, are kind of they're gonna get off those spots and they're gonna be hungry because I don't think they eat much. You can see it. You can see a bed during the spawn, and there'll be a bunch of dead crawdads all around the bed, and I think they're just
killing them,
spitting them out, just not eating.
Sure.
That's why we're getting bit, because they just don't want it there.
Yeah, they don't. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's an easy time for them to fill up on a rich I've caught them sometimes where it's like a cat with a hairball. It just keeps you're like holding the damn thing, and he's just just regurgitating flies all over the boat and stuff like that. And they're just, or you'll see them dimpling the surface out in the mud, like in dumb spots. They're just chasing, but it don't matter. You can throw top water, you can throw a hair jig at those fish, you can throw a jerkbait, whatever. They're just looking up. So as long as you throw it there where they're looking, they're opportunistic. They're going to paste it, but at the same time, they're just picking off things. And
oh man, now I gotta ask you: are you ready to reel in your next home purchase or refinance? Supreme Lending's Dream Team can help guide you through the entire mortgage process, from pre-qualification to closing. They have a wide variety of home loan programs in their tackle box, including down payment assistance and first-time homebuyer options. Just ask me. I trusted Aaron Dagas, a bass fisherman just like you and me, and Supreme Lending's Dream Team to help finance my first home. Contact Aaron Dagas and the Dream Team today by scanning the QR code or giving them a call at 763-326-0677. That's 763-326-0677. Did I catch a 7 in there? Or visit their website, aarondages.supremelending.com. That's AARONDAEGES.supremelending.com. Attention all smallmouth anglers. Have you thrown the marabou jig? Have you thrown the hair jig? Well, if you have, you're going to want to listen right now. This podcast is brought to you by Veselka Fishing and Customs, a custom rod shop based out of Minnesota, and he has developed the answer, folks. What if I told you you could throw that marabou jig 30 to 50% further than you're casting it right now? Well, Dane, Mr. Veselka himself, has developed the answer. It's a custom 8-foot hair jig rod developed on a steelhead fly blank. He's put custom fly guides on this, so you're really going to be able to outcast the competition, catch more smallmouth. They aren't going to see you. What more do you need? Here's what I need you to do right now. Visit veselkafishing.com. That's VOCELKA fishing.com. This is the 8-foot hair jig rod, but this guy can build you anything you want. If you can dream it, he can do it. The crawfish out there are insane. I've noticed in a few spots, you'll find I don't know if it's where the crawfish live. I don't know if it's what it is, but there's areas. I remember there was one, I won't say the reef name, but where it looked like there's little crawfish burrows. And
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was kind of ugliness, but there's just little holes.
I'm sure.
I don't know. You
probably a little
you got crawfish bars you take your clients to?
I think they
live everywhere.
I'm definitely not a scientist so this is just me being out there for the last 8 years, 7-8 years fishing it a lot. I actually think the crawdads are on the downtick now. I think every lake flows in cycles, whether it's a 7-year cycle or whatever. And that's not just for bass, it's for everything.
Yep.
And I think the crawdad is not doing well on the lake right now because, one, we have rusty craws. Well, I'm sure we have natural craw. We do. I've seen them spit up on my boat. We have natural ones. It's my understanding the rusty craw, well, it is invasive, but it's my understanding that they compete hard with the natural one, or so we're told, whatever. But the rusty one's that big orange bad boy. Looks like a mini lobster. That's definitely made Mille Lacs.
Yep.
Smallmouths as big as they are.
For sure.
Abundance of them. I used to launch at the boat ramps and run them over on the boat ramp. They'd be so prevalent all year. I used to catch them. I used to go to Hunter's Point and go have dinner and beer with my wife, and then put a crawdad trap in their dock system so that I could pull them up and see what they're looking like,
That's cool.
weekly, and throw go blast some ducks or something, and then put one of their breasts in there or some of the scraps and stuff like that from hunting in there. And
I
then
always wanted to do that. That's cool. You did that.
Yeah, I don't got it into me to kill a fish, but you know what I mean? Like put something in there and then pull them up and look at them, and they're big. And man, I don't get them no more. They still spit them up, but I still don't see them like I used to see them. And I think that's just a mixture of, you know, like I said, I'm not the scientist, so it's easy for me to disagree with the way the lake's been managed out there for walleyes and all that. I think it's a little bit of mismanagement and a little bit of, you know, just the way the lake's been for a long time, and bad misconceptions have led to the prey getting eaten in the lake by an abundance of predators.
Sure.
You know, smallies were all catch and release there when we were coming up at first. It really, Mille Lacs wasn't a player, probably the reason why it got so big. But really, whether it's Mille Lacs or the Great Lakes or everything, they all blew up because zebra mussels came in. And so you have zebra mussels cleared the water and allowed smallmouths to see, which I just got done saying. They have crazy
Great eyes.
And I've said this in all my seminars and webinars. I'm sure you've heard me say it before on stuff. You know, a largemouth's a mountain lion, a smallmouth's a wolf. They work in packs. They use their eyes to be a predator. A largemouth doesn't see as well, uses its lateral line, and is an ambush predator. Likes to get in cover, eat a bluegill, you know, and do different stuff like that. So the zebra mussels have taken over a lot of these glacial lakes, cleaned them all up, made them super clear. You can see down 15 feet, smallmouths are going to boom. You take the Great Lakes and you add in the goby.
And the zebra.
Yeah, they eat a lot of gobies. I think they more get them through the winter. You know, I think it's not. I think
Seth was saying that.
Yeah, he's one of those that got me kind of getting away from. You know, he told me that a couple years ago. You know, it got my head a little bit more away from the goby. Being like, oh, you got to throw all these goby. When really, and after he said that, it's like, yeah, they're spitting up crawdads, they're spitting up shad, they're spitting up perch. And then they do spit up gobies. But my guess is that they just, in the winter, crawdads essentially hibernate, go dang near dormant.
They can't eat them anymore.
They don't have them like they do. And gobies I put aqua views down on
everywhere.
Like St. Lawrence River and on Mille Lacs and stuff like that. And, not Mille Lacs. I put aquaviews down there, and I've seen a lot of rusty crawdads and perch and stuff. But on like places where there's gobies, they crawl on the bottom. They're everywhere.
Right.
And I've also, again, we go back to forward sonar. I've seen two giant donkeys sitting out there, and I throw my drop shot out there, and it falls, and I watch them both come over and look at it. And then what do I feel? A damn goby drilling my bait with two giants. I'm feeling the goby drilling, and I'm looking at two donkeys looking at my bait.
They don't want the goby or the
They're
bait.
not eating the goby or my bait. You know what I mean? And it's like, so clearly they're not they're not all. But so anyway, the zebra mussels cleaned up Mille Lacs. At the same time, you know, I can sit up at all the bars around that lake and talk to all the people that live there forever and ever, and everybody, you know, everyone's awesome. Everyone fishes for different reasons, and it's awesome. You know, just because I shoot deer because I like to eat them doesn't mean that other people don't love them and want to hug them, right? Just because I want to hug and love a smallie doesn't mean somebody shouldn't eat them, or a walleye or something. So that's everyone's got their own things. But do we need 6 of them a day?
Nah.
Probably not.
Nah.
You know, I look at one walleye. It's like, God dang, I can get 2. Me and Bree can eat off that one decent-sized walleye right there.
Right.
So how many get freezer burned and get thrown out? So that's going to drop your how many walleyes you got biting all the time when you're taking that mini out of the lake.
For sure.
This year they get 1. You know, it should be that way. People should be able to have that opportunity, stuff like that. And we're maybe getting back there. But I think what happened is a lot of misinformation. You know, when the walleye first starts dropping, we naturally blame the smallmouth because the smallmouth's booming. Okay, I can see that would be the natural knee-jerk reaction. But then when we consider that the walleyes spawn first, they're broadcast spawners. They're spawning before the smallies are even up there.
For sure.
Like right in a couple days when it gets this much ice off the bank, the walleyes are going to start rolling and doing their things up in the rivers and all that kind of stuff. The smallies are still
it's
chilling.
still wintered up.
right? So in reality, those walleyes come off the spawn and turn around, and they get to eat more smallie fry.
Yep.
And anyone who fishes that lake knows giant walleyes hang out with them schools of smallmouth
They do.
all the time.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying that group of smallmouth isn't a bunch of bastards, because they are.
Oh, yeah.
They're mean.
Yep.
They're mean, and
Yep.
they control things, but I see it all the time. 3 big giant white dots on their tails, big giant walleyes hanging out with a big group of smallmouth.
Yep.
So I'm guessing they come and turn around and eat more smallmouths probably at the end of the day than smallies end up eating walleyes.
I could see that. Yeah.
Okay, and a lot of the walleye fry gets out to the mud and gets out to those areas where
Yep.
they're safe. They probably get eaten by their own too. But
Right.
then you also got people keeping them. Of course, you got netting and stuff, but that's whether they love it or hate it, that's their right to do it, and
Yep.
it's their heritage to do it. So it's going to happen.
Yep.
So it's just a lot of stuff going on that was dropping numbers of fish out on the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And then the DNR steps in and says, hey, man, no, you can't keep these fish. You can't keep the smallies. You can't keep the walleyes.
Mm-hmm.
So you have an abundance of predators at the end of the day
That
eating
makes sense.
the prey.
Sure.
And if they're not careful, Mille Lacs is big. It's not that damn big
Right.
when you really look at it.
Yep.
If they're not careful, you're going to run into, you got a lot of deer, but you don't got no corn. You're going to have problems. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I'm seeing, and again, this is just a small sliver that I get to look at.
Yep.
The last 7-8 years that I've lived there, guided on the lake, and looked at. So
Yep.
this is information that could totally change later, and I could launch my boat this year, and they're running everywhere, and it could just be a cycle. And will just be a cycle eventually. But my guess is, a lot of them, when you have walleyes eating 3/4-ounce football jigs,
Yeah.
they're eating then they're spitting up crawdads. That's not, maybe it's, I don't even know. Maybe it is their natural forage. I don't know. Maybe they're adapted and
To
change
their
their lifestyle
ecosystem.
to eat it. But bottom line is you can't just
Mm-hmm.
make a lake 100% catch and release without all their things coming together. You need to feed the lake. You need to do something to manage that predator-prey relationship
Right.
that the lake has. But does it have a lot of crawdads? Yes. That's definitely their main forage. It's actually a very unique trophy smallmouth lake in that it's one that does not have shad and does not have gobies, and they predominantly do eat
Right.
crawdads. I truly believe they're 96% crawdads is what
Yep.
they want to eat
Yep.
on that lake. And you don't get that too many.
No.
Wahi has a herring,
Yeah.
Great Lake, you don't get that. But Mille Lacs is that way.
Well, so I think that's super interesting because, so you mentioned the rusty's invasive, right?
Yep.
Just like the zebra mussel, just like milfoil or what have you,
All the
just
good
like
stuff.
an Asian carp.
All that good num-nums, yeah.
And you kind of alluded to this, but when a new species is introduced to a lake or in a new environment, what happens? It reproduces at a rapid pace to establish dominance. That's why it seems like when zebra mussels get into a lake, it's like they go crazy.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. But then like Mille Lacs doesn't seem to have them as bad
No.
as it used to because they level off, right?
No, a
They
lot of
don't
dead fossilized white ones laying around, but not, yep.
So they're not reproducing.
Yep.
So those crawfish are probably the same way. They established dominance and then they leveled off, and now they're not reproducing maybe like they used to when they were introduced to the lake. So now they're getting eaten and they're not replenishing.
Yeah.
Right? They're getting eaten.
It's more of a saying when I say it, but God's got a way of protecting its babies,
Mm-hmm.
and of course I believe in science and all that too. But I do think things self-heal and fix,
Yeah.
and adapt and change. Like I said earlier, everything changes. So, and the lake's no different. It gets it, like you said, they become a predominant deal. They kind of run the show. They
Yep.
chase off the native ones.
Yep.
Kill them, do whatever it's going to do, and vice versa. That's going to create a couple years of things zoning in on them, and it's just going to be a cycle that we see, for sure. But there's, again, you can't blame nobody because
Nope.
you're just working with what you got. You know what I
Totally.
mean? And with this DNR, whether it's us, whether it's whatever. But
Yep.
there's probably a more happy medium in there that walleye anglers can enjoy a little shore lunch fish fry. Maybe you only get 1 or 2 a day. But you know what I mean? And smallmouth, maybe, it ain't so bad if people keep, if we educate, people keep a couple smaller ones and let those, You know how many times I've sat at the bar up there and heard somebody say to me with my guide clients, like, oh, we caught 3, 5, but they got freezer burned in our freezer. And you're just like, that to a guy like me is just like an absolute gut punch. But then, like I said, you know what I mean? I'd shoot a deer and other people want to watch them eat corn all the time and have theirs. So they're their own. But
I was talking to, so that makes me think, I was talking to Doug Petrak, who's a mentor of mine, knows Brian Brown. He's a guide down on Kentucky Lake.
I know who he is. I know, yeah.
And I was talking to him the other day, just out of the blue. I hadn't talked to him in forever. And, you know, Kentucky Lake's seen...
He was one of the first dudes to move.
Yeah, he was
one of them. Brian Brown followed him shortly thereafter. I mean, these dudes are detrimental to me too, because I watched them do it, you know, and go do it.
Doug is, I mean, I've got so many awesome Doug stories, and huge mentor of mine. But I always thought the Asian carp like ruined the bass in that lake. But he kind of explained to me like why that is. It's not that like the Asian carp aren't ruining the bass population. They're ruining the shad population.
Oh.
Because they, like, what an Asian carp eats is the same thing as a shad eats.
Plankton and stuff
Plankton
like that,
and stuff, yep. So, like, this was a huge thing. Like, I was like, oh, wow, I didn't even think of that. So, yeah, the carp are eating all the plankton, so they've got a shad shortage in Kentucky Lake, and that's what...
Which the Tennessee River is notorious for its shad forage.
Right.
And that's why it's always been so dominant, so good, from Pickwick to Chickamauga, Gunnersville to Kentucky.
Bingo.
And now you see it. And I always was under the standing and have seen firsthand on Kentucky Lake where the largemouth spawn like get in the bushes on there.
Yeah.
But you go back there and fish, and it's just Asian carp everywhere, spawning and doing their thing, muddying up the water.
Yeah.
And, you know, they naturally, I would guess they'd eat fish eggs. I don't know that, but they're a bottom feed. But maybe they're not. I don't know.
I don't
all
even
seems
know.
to be on the top of their head or whatever. But yeah, there's always something that's
Another reason
that's going to come. And then, but then how I was saying things change is, dude, Kentucky's pumping out big largies, and what I thought about that is the largemouth doesn't necessarily. I mean, those largemouth are way gizzard shad orientated too. They're
Big
a
time.
different smallmouth than what
it's
we.
weird how that works.
But they're still, you know, on bluffs and
Yep.
and I when I was there, and I took third in that tournament. I thought I was going to catch. I had one good spot on a ledge, and that spot paid me. Other than that, I was still having good practice, but I was running these little kind of random points that I kind of had dialed, yo-yoing a big shadalicious, and I was catching big smallmouth.
Really?
And I was watching Kentucky Lakes kind of booming as a smallmouth fishery now. So it's just, you know, where one thing drops, another thing is going to come to power, and that's just how everything, maybe it just took me getting old to be realizing this, man, but just the way things go, and things are going to change. You can't have a Lake Fork is the damn exception, but you can't have a champion lake for too damn long before it's going to drop down. But kudos to...
They manage their fisheries down there, dude.
I had never really fished there. I've been there like for a couple hours once on my way to Falcon with Brent Hames. Other than that, I never really fished a lake more than a couple hours. And I mean, that lake's not small. I went there thinking it's like every other lake. I knew the size of it, but I swear to God, I idled almost all of it in a day and a half, 2 days of practice.
Yeah, you don't want to hit a stump.
It was nice because the water was down, so we could see them all, so we could idle through them. And there's no shortage of fishermen. There's no shortage of guides. There's no shortage of live bait. There's no shortage of nothing. They are catching them on that lake and have since they've made that lake.
Right.
And that's just really good management.
Yep.
And how much money has that brought in to that area of Texas?
Yeah. A bunch.
And not only that, money's a lot, but it's not everything. How many kids smiling? How many kids got hooked on fishing? Families going out there, and it's just good it's just really good management. Now, a little trickier in Minnesota. We have 10,000 plus lakes, so we got a lot to take care of and stuff like that.
For sure.
But you know, Lake Mille Lacs is a special one. There's not a lot of them like that. Of our 12,000 lakes we have, there's not a lot of them that are like that particular one. And but again, we're seeing it on Leech. Leech, when I first came up back in those Silverado days, I didn't even dream of catching a small. I mean, there were some,
not
but
many.
it was random. Throwing a wacky sink under a sandy dock, and whoa, I got a smallmouth, you know. something weird. I remember my PB for a long time was like a 5-pounder that was I flipped up on a 1-ounce jig in the reeds in Boy Bay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just random. But now, they're booming and they're doing really well out there. And
they are. That is a lake that I think fishes similar to Mille Lacs.
yeah, that's what I haven't never been there since you didn't need to be in the rice all the time to do something. So I'm gonna start keep hearing rumblings of good local tournaments and stuff like that will be there, and there's a lot of fun lakes, man. That I can always learn something new on Mille Lacs, but I'm going to be slipping away a little bit more. Last year I spent a lot of time running around little largemouth lakes. So my guide, when I guide, I only do out-of-state trips, so you have to fly in, or drive in, whatever. But come in, and really I'm pretty. Wisconsin and Iowa don't get too much love either. Like, you got to come in. I just don't want to see you on that fishing spot a lot. But the biggest thing is the clientele that I'm looking for, and I want to help the community around Mille Lacs. They did take a big blow. That was one of the best walleye lakes in the country. It took a hard blow. So it's my way of helping back for what I'm taking. I'm profiting off of that lake and what it is. So I want to put back and bring people in. But every now and then you have a 40-mile-an-hour wind, man. No matter how good I am on the lake and no matter how well I know it in a full circle, you're not hiding from a 38-mile-an-hour wind.
Not much fun to be had. And if you're a guy looking
to
get
you
guided.
Can hurt somebody, they can get hurt and all that. And so I started, needing like, oh crap, spots. Like, where am I going to go? And I was always worried because these people are coming out for 20 pounds a day of big smallmouth. They don't want to run around and catch 3-pound largemouth at these little lakes. But when you catch 40 of them in a day,
pretty fun.
And a couple 4-pounders and a whole bunch of 2-pounders, you know what I mean? All of a sudden they're like, you don't get this in Louisiana. And that's what I learned from a couple of my better clients, now turned good friends and stuff that have went fishing with me a lot, that they're like, they start calling me and saying, hey, I want a couple days of smallie fishing, but our bad day, let's just automatically go largemouth fishing, and you're like, really? Okay, cool. So I'm starting to move around a little bit and stuff like that. And I'm excited to start hitting leech. Pokegama was always one of my favorites.
So fun.
I like the horseshoe chain, dude. I want to come back out here and try to figure it out. Is it still fish the same, or
zebra mussels are in there now?
Really?
So like that.
Smallie's gonna start booming.
Oh yeah.
Are they?
Like. So remember that spot I saw you at that you lost some fish and caught some? You can see bottom in the middle of that channel now.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of changes a lot of things.
Yeah.
'Cause that was definitely polar opposite of what I was attacking.
It shifted to the opposite, and this is like in the past year and a half. Like, it's happened recently. So I think it's about to change a bunch. There was a lot of stuff I found out there, graphing and stuff, that didn't play because it was too dirty and too deep, that I'm kind of excited to see if they'll, shift out. And I don't know exactly what's going to happen. That's a type of body of water that I don't know what, like a Gull Lake or a Whitefish or like a Lahamadou, or those are lakes we've seen zebra mussels get into, and those already had kind of like a really good deep bite. So it just got a little deeper. So I feel like that same thing might just happen. We might get better vegetation growth offshore. I've never seen zebra mussels make weights go down, so I'm assuming the fishing is going to get better. They've gotten bigger in there.
Yeah, it could get tougher. It's going to put the fish, and it depends. You look at a place like Minnetonka, and I would say the zebra mussels actually made the lake tougher. And I'm going to eat
zebra mussels, or was it the pressure? Because it used to get a lot of pressure, but I feel like it gets more now.
Oh no, it does. Well, all lakes are getting more. Like, it's just.
I think the lack of milfoil is really.
We were fishing the Silverados back in the day. We were a bunch of renegades, bass fishermen in this state. You know what I mean? And now their bass boats are flying by everywhere. People are driving up here and stuff. So there's no doubt.
But the
everybody's
milfoil
taking pressure.
I think there's a lack of milfoil out there.
Did that hurt? Did the clear water do that with the zebras? Are the zebra mussels? The zebra mussels really liked that milfoil. You didn't see them on the coontail much. You didn't see them on the cabbage. You'd catch. Oh, you see them some cabbage, but you pull up milfoil and just be lined with them. So how many zebra mussels does it take to sink one stock of milfoil? So
you think they had a factor in that then, maybe?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But one thing, and I'm sure it's mowing and spraying for sure, all kinds of stuff. Yep. And then it seemed like there was one year there, I was still fishing the lake a lot, where the grass or the water got real high. We were no wake all year. And I think that like allowed the coontail and stuff to really blossom and get real big. Something happened right around there. Sure. But I think I'm eating my words. I pay attention. I pay attention to weights. Minnetonka a lot. Still my love. I love that lake. It seems like the winter usually has a good bag, but after that you don't have to have big bags. And I always said, even back then, with all these zebra mussels, the smallmouths are going to boom. This is going to turn into a smallie lake. And I don't know that we've seen that yet.
Aside from the spawn.
It seems like that second tournament still has, around that time of that second tournament, the smallmouths start to show up. And I'm sure there's a little bit more that are making weigh-ins now just because the weights are a little bit lower.
Yep.
But I'm kind of eating my words. So I started saying that 6, 7, 8 years ago, and it just has not come to fruition yet. But I thought it was going to get clearer and clearer, and the smallmouths were going to start to boom out there. But
I've had some insane smallmouth days in the summer out there.
Oh, it's awesome. I can't
and maybe
do it
it's twice.
A hair batter. Maybe
I don't know how to do it twice.
That's always.
I don't know where they go. I don't know why they go here, why they go there.
If they're on a bed, I know where they're going. But if they're on their own, it can be like, oh my God, I feel like the man right now.
Yeah, right.
And then not. But yeah, I always thought that was going to really push that lake into that direction. But
that lake's a head scratcher. I love it.
Yeah, it's good. You get these lakes, people have been out. What direction would that be? West a lot lately here, and we don't have to say names, and it's definitely no secret no more. But different lakes pop up, and the word gets out they're hot, and the pressure goes there, and that's a necessary evil because they'll go there, and then that relieves pressure and lets lakes rebound and come back and stuff like that, and change.
They do.
Like Leach.
Everything changes. Yep. I just don't know if I want to be a communist yet. So, so like on tour and stuff, like, do you roll with anybody?
Yeah. We're campers.
Yep.
As of now, that's going to change here in a little bit. Just with the some changes with the camping and stuff. It was really nice when we first started. We kind of got on that. Carl helped.
Yep.
Kind of dial us into that deal right away, and it seemed like right away.
Get you a Talpa, mate.
Yeah, exactly. It seemed like right away, we kind of had the run of the show of the campgrounds and all that. Now you got to really fight to get breeze on that stuff right away when it comes out. I just got a new truck, put a topper on it we're going to do some VRBOs here at some point. So since I started the FLW, in the opens I rolled with people and stuff, guys from here, whoever I could there. But once I got on the FLW tour, it was just kind of me and Bree and our dog and going around the campsites. Now we kind of got a group at the campsites and stuff that I can always, Carl will be there, Brandon will be there, Swindle will be around. You get a group of guys that you bounce around. Pat Schlapper will be there. Daryl Gleason. There's a bunch of them that
sounds fun.
That do a lot of camping, and it's great. So at the same time now, I think, we're looking at VRBO. So I'd guess that we'll have a guest or here or there, but we're doing, nice enough. I'm traveling with Bree and stuff like that. I think we'll, I don't think we're going to rat it. Like, I've stayed in hotels before with me, Seth, Figgy, probably 3 more, Hosey, a few more dudes, and literally, I think I was paying $11 a night to sleep in there, but I was in a floor, or we were two guys on a bed, and stuff. I'm probably past all that now. Sleeping on floors. I've had bed bugs a couple times in my life trying to make it to being a Bass Pro is not glamorous.
Bed bugs?
Glamorous.
I never seen a bed bug.
I never saw them either, but I saw the welts all over my side.
What?
One time at Wabasha and one time at Lake of the Ozarks where I got.
You got bit?
Oh, yeah. Sleeping on a floor.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm broke, man. I don't.
still though.
That's the thing. I don't come from the money. I just do it. I
Yeah,
just
no, I
ratted
get
it
that.
my whole way and just
I'm a
whatever.
rat.
If some dudes had a place and they're like, you know what I mean?
I'm a rat.
We'll let
I
you
just never been bit by
we'll
the bug.
let you slip. Yeah, just lucky. You
Oh,
know.
wow.
But one time in Wabasha, a hotel, I got it real bad. Kind of a popular hotel. One time at Lake of the Ozarks, I woke up and I had them.
Are they like big welts?
Yeah, they're just all different sizes. Depends on how long they've been
Depends
chewing
how big
on
the
you,
bed
I
bug
guess.
is.
I
and-
don't know,
yeah.
but just different stuff, you know, and or just you get too many guys in there, you're popping fuses and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. But
How big is a bed bug? Is it?
I don't know. I've never actually seen one.
No, it's
I've just
been-
seen the welts
Right.
that they got me. That's all.
Got them.
You lift up, you have like 6 or 7 freaking welts.
They
on the
itch and
side of you.
stuff. Or? They
Not
hurt?
for me, but like none do. Like when I get attacked by fire ants, I'm ow, 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 and I look down, I got 12 of them on my feet
Yep.
eating me up. Mosquito bites never make me itch.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
just I don't know. I
Well,
just don't. My
Your
skin-
Bass Pro, your skin's a half-inch thicker.
Yeah,
on
exactly,
Average, so.
exactly. But yeah, so I get along with a lot of guys, but yeah, the camper life kind of keeps you in your, what you get and when you get it, and you got your own plug-in and all that.
Right.
So
Well, you have a hell of a wife.
Oh, she's the best.
You guys, that's like kind of like the dream team.
it's a literal. I wouldn't have done it without her. I won't get to where I'm going without her.
Yeah.
And she's really, she worked for a bank. Got sick of the cubicle life.
Mhm.
Wanted to travel with me. Of course, I wanted her there. She picked up a camera.
Right.
Figured out right away that, I can sit in front of a camera. I can talk bass fishing like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
I love teaching people about fishing. That's what I'll do when the tournaments go away. Keep teaching people.
Yeah.
I would love to be somewhat of the closest thing I possibly could to an Al Lindner for Minnesota, in my down the road here when I get out of the tournament stuff.
You'll be reading us the Bible
love
someday.
all
I'll
that.
look forward to that,
Maybe,
dude.
yeah. But yeah, she helped. It was immense how good she is. She picked up a camera, became an assassin with that. She's a photographer and does a lot of the video stuff.
Yeah.
And she loves to travel. I mean, she's the one setting up the reservation. She's making sure my sponsor obligations are getting done. She's on, I run my own social media and stuff like that, but it's her photo and all that.
She does
stuff.
like,
yeah,
she
she gets
gathers
the content
content.
together. I kind of do all that, but she's got a great relationship with all my sponsors, as good as I do.
Yeah.
They know if I missed an email or two, I hate to say the word ignored, if I fished too much and missed a couple
Yeah,
emails,
yeah.
they'll ping her and
Sure.
whatever. She is definitely been the one, but again, it's just looking back at the years now when I was fishing the Silverados and stuff, and I just want to be an elite pro and wake up and I'd pause it and show her, hey, look at this, this guy's wife travels with him, backs his boat in, and
Yeah.
I took her to Walmart at like 2 a.m. We got our first boat.
Sure.
So it was no pressure on her, and just said, put it right here.
Yep.
Back it up here. And that's something I recommend anyone listening, whether it's you, your significant other, your kid, whatever, that is, nobody wants to be that person at the boat ramp, right?
Yeah.
Seriously, don't make people do it there. Take
That's
the boat the
horrible
night
spot.
before and simply just go to a Target when they're closed and say,
Get 2 floggers.
here's the lane.
Yep.
No, you don't need to.
Yeah,
They're already sketched out right there in the parking
Learn your
spots.
mirrors.
Put it right here,
Mhm.
and no pressure. And now Bree's the best
Pro.
I mean, Kayla, Carl's wife, will probably give her competition. That they're better than we. Bree's better backer upper than I am. I'll tell you
Damn.
that. She high pressure, bright lights, music's blaring. You can't see. There's 6 lanes. Everyone's backing in. Sometimes she pushes me off too quick. She'll like stop and just kick the boat off real
Damn.
fast before I can fire an engine. But no, man, meals are ready to go when I get back. She does the wife stuff that she wants to do, and then the business side, she's been there 100%, 1,000% for a fact. I would never have been fortunate enough to put my name along a Bassmaster Elite Series angler without Bree, for sure.
Dude, that's awesome. And
Yeah, very
So-
lucky.
I have one question, and then maybe we could wrap this up. But does she have any younger sisters?
Yeah, no, she doesn't.
Okay. Cousins?
No, not much.
Okay.
No.
Clones?
People ask them all
Yeah.
that, but
Yeah, I bet you get that a
honestly,
lot.
it's just about just trying to share a passion and
Totally.
making a dream. If I'm, one day I'll hoist that blue trophy.
It's gonna
Pray
happen,
to God
dude.
every day. One day I'll hoist the Bassmaster Classic trophy. But
Amen.
seriously, I've dreamed about it. She'll be sitting there holding half of it with me because I just couldn't do it without her. And it's tough to be gone. That's another really
yeah.
legitimate reason why some people don't make it or whatever. If there was ever a time that I almost quit, it was because I was gone from home for just too long, month and a
long
half,
time.
and a crack. Your dogs, if you have kids, I don't have kids, so that's
Right.
fortunate for that
Yep.
aspect. That
Big time.
it's one thing to leave your wife at home while you're chasing a dream, another thing to leave your wife at home with your kids. So you better be good at making a dream come true. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
Totally,
and
dude.
make money work and come back home and all that if you're not blessed to have it
Yeah.
before you started. So no, that was she's incredible. She's awesome, and really it is truly a team game because she feels bad tournaments as bad as I feel them.
Right.
And but there's nothing better when I get to come in and flip the thumbs up sign to her
Sure.
and watch her smile. That's for sure. It's big.
Absolutely. So, kind of as we're wrapping this up, when's your next event?
Yep. Well, we got 3 and 4 weeks coming up. I got a Shield seminar on, I'm not sure when this will air, but coming up here on Friday.
I probably won't make it in time.
Yeah,
but,
whatever.
yeah.
We got that to do on Friday, and then we leave right from there. I have a 5 o'clock seminar at Shields, and then the truck and boat and dog and Bree and everybody will be there ready to go. And as soon as that's done, we bail out and we go to Lake Murray,
Sure.
and then Santee Cooper the week after, and we get a week off, and then Lake, Alabama.
Nice. Where's the seminar?
Where?
Yeah.
Shield.
Which one?
Eden
Shields?
Prairie.
Eden Prairie.
EP, yep,
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Over there in Eden Prairie, the big store. So that'll be it should be fun. It's our Fish Fest, so it should be
Yeah.
a good time. It's a good seminar. I like putting on seminars. Again, that's another
You're great at it.
combination between Bree and I that I like to give the good stuff that people are really going to learn.
Yep.
I'm not
I've
going to
noticed
sit there and
that.
talk about putting braid and
You
float.
don't bullshit people.
No, I'm going to give it
Yep.
to you the way I see it. But Bree can get behind a damn PowerPoint presentation and deck that thing out. So
Cool.
it's killer all the way around. So
Dream
if anyone
team.
ever gets the opportunity to come to one of my seminars, I highly recommend it. I try not to waste your time. That's for damn sure.
Oh, I'm sure you won't. And yeah, anybody who hasn't heard of Josh Douglas, social media, you're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
Yeah, Josh
all
Douglas
the
Fishing.
stuff. Josh Douglas Fishing.
Yep.
Well, dude, this has been such a blast. Thank you so much for making the trip out here. It truly means a lot. And it's just, it's a lot of cool memories with you in the boat. And I guess I've always looked up to you. And I can't wait to see you hoist that blue trophy, dude.
Before you, I want to say the same back to you, dude. One thing, it's easy obviously I'm a guest on your show right now, your podcast. It's easy to talk about me and what's came, but I just love watching other people here in the Minnesota bass community excel in different ways and
Sure.
just find a niche for them that they like to do. And dude, I've been a big fan of this podcast, the way you're doing it,
Sure.
setting it up, and keep it rolling, dude. Honestly, it's an honor to be on. Thank you.
Means a lot. Thank you.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in, checking out.